but the will of him who sent me. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And I'm looking at his quotes.
How does that make him an ISFJ?
Because he does everything that God tells him to do.
Yeah, but where is God coming from? Exactly. Is he making this up, or is it actually God?
No, I understand. I know you were gonna go there, but that's my point. Like, I understand if you believe, if we're gonna say that God isn't real, right? But that's not what I believe, of course. What I believe is that he is real and that he did send his only son, right? Then I'm gonna say that Jesus would have been an SI Dom because he came here knowing exactly what was gonna happen. And not everything, because obviously, according to what I know, like I'm gonna say we, but I mean like the Catholic religion, okay? So according to what we know, Jesus was, he talked to his father, and then his father would like tell him what was going to happen next, what he needed to do, like the teaching. So he was always constantly talking with Jesus, and everything he did was because Jesus told him to do it. Like when he disappeared when he was just a child, and Mary couldn't find him, and he was with the scholars teaching them, right, and learning from them, like that. He specifically said, my father, like something about women, calm down. My father told me to do this. Like everything he did was because he was in constant communication with God. So everything that he was doing is because God was telling him to do it. Okay. So it's not that he was deciding to do it. Like everything would be like, and even when like I said, like I said last time, the first miracle he ever did was when he converted the water to wine. And he was not going to do it. He wasn't going to do it because he felt bad, because, oh my God, people are hungry. No, he did not care at all. And Jesus and God hadn't told him to do anything. So he was not going to do it. But then Mary begged him to do it. Mary was like, please, do this for me. So he did it for her. He didn't do it for the people that were there because, he thought, he felt bad for them. He did it because his mom asked him to do it. So the other figure that he also respected told him to do it. And every single time he did something, either God asked him to do it or Mary asked him to do it. Or he thought it would be what was best for the community. It was never, from what I could tell, an FI choice of like, oh, he felt bad about it. No, it was like, that's what he was supposed to do. That's, every single time that he is mentioned in the Bible or his teachings, is what he's supposed to do.
That we have come to is, if God is real, then Jesus was an ISFJ. If God wasn't real, then INFP.
Yes. That's what...
Hello, everyone. It's the Saturday MBTI stream here on the Street Urchin channel. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. Pencap's here, 88 Mahi here is here, and then the very first person to post is Cookie Dough.
Cookie Dough stole Pencap's place.
Yes. Today's background game is Resident Evil 6. Which I will be sporadically playing on today's stream. Because there isn't a proper pause button here. That's the best I got. So there's no crouching position while the game's still running.
It makes sense.
Cookie Dough is the
This
queen
is Delta
of
2, I'm clear of the building. HQ here, copy that. Alpha is still on premises.
Hello,
Bombing will
everyone.
start once
Hi,
they're clear.
Tercia. Today we are mostly just having another chill Saturday stream. Ask whatever questions you might have about MBTI and find paying enough attention to the chat. I'll be able to answer while I'm trying to do Resident Evil stuff. Then today with me I do have Lady B.
Hello.
She has fully recovered is technically in call, but she refuses to speak. Yeah.
First floor hostage security.
Sounds like cookie dough.
Copy that, Alpha. Now clear out of there.
Anyway, did what I say make sense though?
What did you say? About Jesus?
When I was yeah.
Yeah, it made sense.
Copy that. Commencing with bombing.
Okay.
I just read it.
Shit, we're trapped. What the hell do we do now? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
HQ to Alpha. You can get out on the
Hi,
third floor.
Toshia.
There's a
Hi.
balcony on the west side of the building. Get moving.
See if I can.
Galio. Hi, Hedex. Hi, cookie dough. What
Make
type
sure
is
everyone
this
can
thing?
hear me through this thing. I've been talking through my headset microphone lately, so I forget that this even exists. Anyway. What type is the sun? I don't know what type is the sun. It brings nourishment to the surrounding worlds of some sort, whether it wants to or not. It just does the same stuff over and over again, so why not the sun be an ISTJ, ISFJ? It's doing its duty. Be one of those. Let's see. And hello, Pedro. Welcome to the thing. Club ENTP is here. The sun is an ESTJ. Could very well be the case.
Alpha team, get
Why
out
not?
there now. Preparations to bomb the building are complete. Planes have been scrambled.
I don't want to be here when those birds show.
Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. The game is still louder. Well, let me see if I can't turn it down even more. Oh, Chris got smashed while I was adjusting settings because there's no pause button.
Hello.
Hello, Vivian Martha. Hello, can I ask what are your thoughts on ENFJs? Succubus. That is the ENFJ. So they're particularly adept at getting people to like them, and they typically want to use people to move up in their plans.
They started bombing.
So
Guess they don't care that we're still in here.
that's what my thoughts on ENFJs. Obviously, they're not, evil people or anything. Typically, they're very group oriented. They roll around with an entourage more often than not. I want to say that they quantify their level of success based on how many people like them and the quality of the people that like them. So they're usually not satisfied unless they know people in higher up stations in society, like law enforcement, celebrities, professional athletes, etc. So. Dun, 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 dun. No. First to hit the like button. Yes, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, Club ENTP. No, I don't think that the ENFJs are evil people or anything. They just have certain ways of viewing other people. What do you think, Ben?
Well, I think that I haven't never met an ENFJ in real life, so it would be as a surface. Is that the word for me to, say much about them? because I don't really know. I only know what their functions could look like if I ever met them. So I've met ESFPs, right? It's not the same, but I can say that FE in the lead position makes them, the moment they enter a shadow room, it's all about trying to get to know you, right? The questions that they're asking, it's about like, how's everybody doing? They want to know what you did today, what you like, what you like. They kind of just want to get to know people. And then with NI in the second position, they want to get to know people so that they can use those skills for later for themselves.
Right.
Like, SI is just, they're trying to have a good time. And NI would be for their own benefit.
The cursor has disappeared from my screen. No, we're not typing animals. Or at least we shouldn't be. We need to unplug the controller here. Maybe that'll fix it. Let's see. So we're fighting the Juavo. How would you pronounce that in Spanish, Ben?
Vamos a ver. That would be Javo. We don't have apostrophes, so I don't know how to even. I don't know how I would start.
Well, you're all kinds of helpful. My goodness.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure if I want to go with breakout or item drop increase, because I seem to run out of ammo a little bit faster. But I'm playing Chris Redfield, and he mostly punches things to death, so maybe it's not that important. I don't know why all these skills are so expensive. I don't make that much at the end of the missions. Let's see here. What is the difference between being inferior to a function and being blind to a function? I'm not sure what you mean by being blind. I know I've heard the phrase, a blind spot somewhere in the function preferences, but yeah, I would say that in the inferior position, which I believe is that's what most people refer to as the fourth position, I call it the disdain function. So whatever function is in the fourth position, it's there. Maybe it nags at you once in a while, but you keep it pushed down. You don't want to deal with it. It's not worth your time. You want to stay focused on your first two functions. So it's there. It's supposed to develop as you get older, but it's so you're aware of it. You just don't want to deal with it. And then as for a in quote blind one, I'm assuming that's 7th, 8th position. It's not something that you even recognize really exists as part of your reality.
Love you, NTP. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. And everyone, if that's here, please hit a like, a share, subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated.
All that good stuff. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to go with item drop increase.
Well, Cookies, though, is she cries, so I'm not sure that she's crying today. Hopefully not, Cookie Dough.
Cookie Dough is not crying. She just likes to pretend. She's never cried in her life. Let's see. What MBTI type are the main playable characters of this game? Stereotypical action heroes, more often than not. I have not gotten around to it. So there's some characters like Chris Redfield seems pretty stereotypical ISTP, whereas his partner Pierce seems like an ISTJ. Leon Kennedy is he does more action stuff and than having meaningful dialogue. He has a strong sense of duty, and he takes the loss of the president in Resident Evil 6 pretty hard. That was a personal letdown for him. I think he takes it a little bit emotionally, so hard to say. Let's see. What if an ISJ grew up in a chaotic household with constant change? It doesn't go well typically for them. They want consistency, so they look for they do their best to look for other areas in which there's consistency in their life. So, for example, a lot of ISTJs lately have been growing up in single parent households, usually without a father around, and so what do? Well, they look to their friends, they'll look to their social circles in general, they will look to anyone that's trying to help give them some sense of stability. A lot of them have been going to YouTube and trying to figure out how to be a person off of YouTube. And so you can do that. Let's see. As for ISFJs, I assume it would be roughly the same, except they'll look to pay attention to groups where they experience or express a lot more extroverted feeling, and then try to pick up the traditions from that.
Cookie Dough's the sweetest thing ever.
She is the sweetest thing ever.
Pedro, I think that Cookie Dough is mentally capable of adopting someone, by the way. That'll be sweet.
If the sun revolves around the earth, what time is peanut butter? Oh, peanut butter time is the same time as jelly time. So we would say it's peanut butter jelly time. Where you at? Where you at? You're welcome, Cookie Dough. Thank you guys for the answer. I believe I am one, but I find myself to be more imaginative than an introverted intuitive user. I am not sure. I am very emotional and imaginative. How should I type myself? Well, if you're emotional and imaginative, that usually points towards a preference for extroverted intuition and introverted feeling. So it would seem closer to either ENFP or INFP, not the J. ENFJs, much like INFJs, are still very concerned with their future, their goals, their plans, making sure that they become whatever they believe the best version of themselves is, being as successful as they can in whatever criteria they choose. So they're not ones to waste a lot of time. They're usually very busy people. And they don't sit in their feelings. Right. Okay. And the cursor just decided to come back all on its own. It's very helpful. Okay. But, of course, Vivian, if you would like to have me type you, I do have a Discord. For a small donation, of course. What's going on in the chat?
Cookie Dough. It's okay, Cookie Dough. You're not spamming.
Listen up.
Ambient Disguise is asking, how is the book going?
How's the book going? Ven hasn't gotten through reading through the chapters that I sent her, so
it's my job to make sure we all
How
get
do you
through this
know?
alive.
How do you know? Maybe I have.
Because you would have told me about it.
Suck it up, Finn. Sorry, sir. No one gets
And then
left
made fun of me
behind.
about it.
Not on my watch.
You would have done all of that.
Understood? Yes, sir. Finn,
I never make fun of you. That's
Yes,
that's
sir.
a lie.
The guerrillas are using a new species of BOW. Command is calling them Juavo.
Juavo.
They are extremely intelligent, incredibly strong, and have the ability to mutate in response to physical trauma.
All right, you know the drill. We split into 3 teams. Move out. You got it, sir.
Yes, sir.
You're the rookie, huh?
Yes, sir. Finn McCauley, sir.
I know you're nervous, Finn. The team's got your back, okay?
Yes, sir. I'll give this everything I've got.
All this talk about food is making me hunger, or maybe the weed gave me the munchies. Could be both.
Is he always this awesome?
Has anyone else played Resident Evil? Or is it just me? Ben, have you played Resident Evil?
Enemy fire.
No, this is the first time I watched it. You know how I am about scary stuff.
I wouldn't say a lot of this is scary. I mean, the 2 newest ones, 7 and 8, they tried to put the scare on you for sure.
Yeah. So I heard that when I probably was 7 and 8 that I asked Ariana. She was like, "Oh yeah, those games are scary. I like to play them in the dark." I'm like, "Why? Why would you play them in the dark if they're scary?" And then after that, I just obviously didn't even bother buying the game because I do not do scary. I do scary with you, right? Because you're gonna protect me. If a ghost comes out, you're gonna jump in front of it. And
Of
just
course.
save it. Thank you, Mahi. If you like smut novels, then you might like my book. Maybe.
It was a bit of a smut novel. Oh, that's a good guy, I think. Ooh. Whoa. Oh, that's not good. Somehow the whole team passed up this sniper on the way here. Stupid Pierce. Ah. Then,
Yes.
what questions do you have for me?
Ooh. Let's see. Pedro says, speaking of types, what is your MBTI type? All of you, I mean. I'm not sure if he's asking Chad or us.
Well, this is a teaching YouTube channel, and so I always encourage people to figure it out. To flex your thinking muscles. And see if you can't tell us what the types are. I always encourage.
You're sitting ducks out there, Alpha.
That makes sense.
The whole point of this YouTube channel was to teach people about MBTI in a relatable fashion so that it could be more helpful to them. I don't know how many people are actually gonna care to do it, but that's the hope.
Everyone always
Crab
gets
monster. Say what?
everyone always gets my type wrong, so that's gonna be tough.
Someone will get it right one of these years.
Do you think my type is just extremely hard to type for people? Because of the way that we behave sometimes?
What's your Enneagram? Your bed screams ENTP. I don't know what my Enneagram is. I don't... I didn't study Enneagram. I've read through some things about it a couple times, but I was disinterested.
Yes, I will send the application to Galio so she can see where it is.
And also, if you would like to donate and then have me type you, remember not to donate in the form of a super chat. Do not do that.
I didn't know they came in extra large. How many new species are there?
Oh, that looks bad.
Honestly, I might be an INFP.
Think so?
Yeah, you don't think so?
I don't think so, no.
Red, we got a new BOW on our tails. I need the APC's firepower now.
Removing the barricade now, sir. I'll be there soon.
Well, I'm being disguised as I'm an INFP 110%. So he must be right, because it's 110.
110%? Well, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's great logic. I go with that.
No! Damn it, Redfield. What are you doing? He doesn't want to run up there. He just wants to jump off the side. Alright, fine. Can't go through there. Invisible walls. It's my favorite kind of walls.
I've been noticing a trend. I think I told you about, but I'm not sure. So let's discuss it again.
Let's discuss a trend.
When it comes to ENFPs, I've realized that, or I believe, because when I start talking to someone that says, "Oh, I'm an ENFP," or "Oh, that looks like an ENFP," it's always completely wrong. Like, there's just way too much FI, like obvious FI, right? Like, not just the FI that's there that you can subtly see or just notice. It's more like an INFP FI or an ISFP or an ESFP FI. Why do you think? Do you think ENFPs are hard to type for? Like, would it be possible for ENFPs to be hard to type for other people?
I wouldn't have thought so. But most people don't have a clear understanding of cognitive functions and how they behave given the position. So ENFPs are not hyper-emotional creatures, by the way. When it comes to making decisions, they can either go with, especially when they're like in their 20s, for example, they can easily choose to go with either a introverted feeling response to a decision or when they're making a decision, or a reaction, or they can go with an extroverted thinking response. And so, when they're trying to have logical conversation with people, they can easily go with extroverted thinking. They do not require a introverted feeling response to everything. And although I have seen ENFPs get emotional fairly regularly, certainly a lot more than me, it's not a persistent thing. They will choose to express themselves as appropriate through either introverted feeling or extroverted thinking, whereas an INFP has a very difficult time separating their personal opinions or how they feel about a subject and separate that from the logic. It takes much more time for them to get used to separating it. So, let's see. What other questions we got here? Would someone with Fourth function, introverted feeling, be interested in typing themselves. Would they be good at it? Well, when it it's funny you bring that up. Now I have there might have been there was possibly, and then when I talked to someone almost primarily through text chat and then finally over through voice chat, someone that claimed to be an ENTJ and joined my server. They wanted some very specific answers to some very specific questions. And after they got those answers, they left. They did not ask me to type them. They did not believe that there was a need for such a thing. I'm not sure how they came about having that confidence in a subject that they obviously weren't particularly versed in, but they were pretty positive of who they were. So there's that. But in the case of ESTJs, would they be good at typing people? Based on what little experience I have meeting ESTJs that try to get into a typology, no, they are not good at it, or typing themselves for that matter. The ESTJs that I have typed immediately want to type themselves as ENTPs, and that's what they stick with. And if you try to argue with them, well, as Myers-Briggs will tell you, ESTJs do not appreciate having their logic questioned at all. That's something that's very clear about them on the website. They get very aggressive. They will start trying to insult you. They will do a large number of things, except be able to rationalize their position of being the type they think they are. So far, I have not met an ESTJ that has typed themselves as ESTJ or recognized that those are the functions that they preference. Let's see. What other questions, Ben? Taking sniper fire.
So, someone asked, can you describe how each function is like in the third position?
Each function, so all 8 functions. Let's try introverted thinking. Start with the thinking one. So introverted thinking in the third position. I think it's easier to just say that it's not typically the one that they would like to use, whatever it is, but they often find themselves having to use it. So in the case of either thinking function, so it really helps, let's say the ENFPs or ESFPs, it helps them understand what's going to be valuable in terms of getting this more objective, being objectively successful, task completion, getting the answers, and then moving forward afterwards. So that would be like extroverted thinking. Introverted thinking, of course, it's just... What?
Can you give an example?
Of taking information and then move... Okay, yeah, sure. My father is a bit of... He enjoys doing these little business enterprises, from time to time. And so one of which was he had switched from being going to being an auto mechanic, and decided that was it wasn't worth being an auto mechanic anymore. And he decided that he was going to try something completely new, something that no one else was doing at the time. And he decided to do virtual tours for houses. Get the camera, go out, take a bunch of pictures, stitch them together, and then create virtual tours. And this was before the virtual tour thing had actually took off. And he decided to crack open some website, like HTML books. And in 6 months, he had started up a business. He was able to crack open that book, get the information, and then apply it to just start up a company. He had that company for several years. And it all started with him just cracking open a book and having the determination to do it. And so that would be an example of, doing that. And whereas, and contrasting extroverted thinking in the third position to, let's say, first or second. In the first or second position, extroverted thinkers don't have a lot of time to just come up with these new business ideas and then go all in on it. They don't oftentimes see that it's going. There's too much. There's too many possibilities in which that can go wrong. And so, for example, an ESTJ that might have an idea about starting up something new that they could turn into a business, that's fine. But they are absolutely going to have a stable job first, and that's going to be their primary. That's going to be their priority. They're going to have a stable job, making good money, and then whatever extra time they have left over, they might decide to invest towards a new business idea. As an example. They want extroverted thinking still prefers objective numerical results for things. But I think overall the simplest way to put it is that if it's in the third position, it's something that starts to want to manifest later in life. Usually it's sometime past puberty. And then when the situation calls for it, they will try to use that function. Is it going to be as developed as someone who's got that same function in the first or second position? No, it's most certainly not. It's not something that they are going to hardcore preference. That's a grenade. Oof.
Correct. So introverted thinking next.
So introverted thinking in the third position, so you're looking at two personalities. You're looking at the ISFJ and INFJ. They, once again, when they're young, they are going to keep that introverted thinking to themselves. More often than not, they care more about just getting along with everyone, being cooperative. But as they get older, they start to trust that their logic is most likely more sound than that of other people around them. And so they can, of course, get a little stubborn over what they believe is correct. And so...
Example?
Just any time I've ever had to have an argument or a disagreement with an ISFJ. They're more common, so I can use that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I inevitably win the disagreement, they'll still look at me with that jaundiced eye and go, maybe, but I don't know. Because it does, unless they come up with it themselves, they're not going to be as open about it. They hold on to their introverted thinking a little bit more tightly than some other personalities. Like it's a pet project. Let's see.
Okay, next is extroverted sensing, which Tertia also asked about this. She wants to know what role it plays. So same thing, how it works on the third position. With extroverted sensing.
Third position extroverted sensing, so we're looking at ENFJs and ENTJs. It absolutely, as they once again were coming out of puberty here.
Any casualties?
So you're looking at, let's say earliest, let's say 15, 16, and they start to experiment with it, start to see where there's a lot of benefit in using extroverted sensing, which the game crashed. That's unfortunate. Anyway, so usually how I would see it manifest is this desire for practical results, and of course it's about dealing with the real world, dealing with what you can see, what you can hear, taste, touch, feel. This also includes their physical abilities. So ENTJs, just like ENFJs, are still concerned with their physical health. On top of that, because when your plans are already being put into motion, because you've got that introverted intuition preference, your plans are already being put into motion, and so all you have left to do is wait. There's not as many, when you're still focused on just real world stuff, they tend to be more engaged in the real world, doing real world stuff. So, for example, like the exercising, making sure that you look good. ENFJs don't go outside unless they look their absolute, at the very least, more attractive than the average person. They're not going to leave the house unless they look that way. It also means that they are a little bit more They can be a little bit more chatty, especially ENFJs, understandably. Be a little bit more, seeming a little bit more high energy, talking about real world stuff, being relatable to other people. ENTJs, it seems, are going to focus more on their physical aptitude with things. So when they're waiting for their uh, college applications to get reviewed and then sent back to them, they'll take the time out dealing with real world stuff, getting those real world accolades. What was the
Perfect.
next one? And then introverted sensing
Interesting.
in the third position. Well, once again, it's not the strong because it's third position. It's not the strongest preference, but we're looking at INTPs and INFPs. They tend to so INFPs really enjoy ruminating on past emotional experiences and then trying to glean more information off of them, which is why a lot, especially in the case of INFP males, they can kind of get stuck when they're particularly depressed. They can get stuck in remembering all the times that something unfavorable happened and then trying to learn from that and kind of mulling it over and over again. INFP females can, of course, experience the same thing. So they are often trying to recollect emotional experiences for themselves or from their past memories. Uh, as for INTPs, they tend to want to remember random bits of information that they read about things they found interesting. It seems like that's what they do. Of course, their memory is going to be a step above mine in either case, either INFP or INTP. They're a little bit more attached to certain traditions. I know I have two INFPs that I talk to fairly regularly. One grew up in a strict religious household, and one did not. And they behave they are very dissimilar in behavior about a lot of things, about a lot of traits, hobbies, things like that. What's next?
Extroverted intuition.
Extroverted intuition in the third position. So ESFJs and ESTJs, how I have seen those manifest is they typically have a a much when it comes to recreational things, they may have a let's start with the ESFJ. The ESFJs that I knew that were older enjoyed astrology quite a bit. Enjoyed astrology. So when it comes to that extroverted intuition, as they get a little bit older, they want to think about certain abstract concepts that may or may not have any merit to them whatsoever. And as for ESTJs, they start to branch out, try other things. It could be a typology, which I have seen more recently, but usually it's some kind of a video game, typically. They oftentimes enjoy some kind of first person shooters. There's some that enjoy Grand Theft Auto, for example. Yeah, some kind of a shooter game, something about dominating people, applying, oppressing them, or exerting their authority over others. But in day to day stuff, like you catch them in a workplace setting, ESTJs usually enjoy taking the ideas from other people and then applying them to their life, or straight up just taking the ideas for themselves and then claiming credit for it. I've seen a lot of that. As for ESFJs, they usually like to be more group oriented. So if they do use the ideas from other people, they also exert a great deal of extroverted feeling, and they want to make sure the whole group is appreciated for their accomplishments. But once again, they're not living an extroverted intuition. It's there. It's more of this kind of hobby-ish thing that does not consume their life. Um, Introverted intuition in the third position. That would be your ISFPs and ISTPs. So usually I have seen it become the main source of depression for those two types as they eventually reach whatever age that they decide to be to look inward and decide that they are not where they want to be. Now, if you come across an ISFP or an ISTP that is happy and they believe they're on the correct course for their life, they're usually much better well adjusted and they're generally okay. But growing up in poor places in the country, going to the low average household income communities, not particularly happy. And but it eventually pops up in their life and they ask themselves, am I where I want to be right now, and am I going in the direction that I want to be going? They typically are aiming for these kind of fantasy scenarios for later on in life. Typically ISFPs, most ISFPs, it hasn't been all of them, but most ISFPs want a family. They want the house, the 2.5 kids, white picket fence, having a financial stability, etc. That's usually what they're looking for. And now when it comes to ISTPs, they tend to want to be as strong as they can be. They want to have not just a strong body, though. They typically also want a strong mind, and so some of them will jump into things like philosophy to attempt at building up their mental framework to become an objectively better person, whatever their criteria is.
Next is FE.
An extroverted feeling in the third position. So you've got ESTP and ENTP, and what you're looking at are predators in terms of how the extroverted feeling gets used. It is specifically used to get people to like them. And that is as far as they want to take that. They just want people to like them. So casual conversation, getting people to be more romantically intimate with them, the standard manipulation tactics in getting people to adore them or find them funny or things like that. Predatory. And then the last one is introverted feeling.
Correct.
In the third position. So you're looking at ISTJs and INTJs. More often than not, it comes out as an anger. That is most of the time I have seen it in ISTJs and INTJs. It's anger. And they all have their reasons for why they're angry. But that seems to be the expression they like to portray the most when it comes to introverted feeling, as they display an anger. But of course, it also translates into them having getting into hobbies or interests that make them feel good. So INTJs, of course, can have their own hobbies. My brother, for example, really enjoys Warhammer. He builds computers, things like that, and he's got a girlfriend now, so I imagine a great deal of his time goes to her and that she is making him feel good. So hope for that.
Okay.
But mostly anger. Mostly anger. That is how I've seen it over the past 10 years.
That makes sense, because my ISTJ, I have a friend that is he gets upset pretty quickly on things that just don't make sense to be upset about, especially in like competition. Tends to get pretty upset.
Angry. They get frustrated very, very easily, it seems. Let's see.
Okay, so the next question that we have is going to be... Sorry, I had to scroll all the way up and down, guys. Give me a moment. Someone asked, what is the MBTI most compatible with an ENTP? Club ENTP believes that it's the INFJ or INTP, but all that matters is that they're highly intelligent and have a nice behind.
Well, I guess that really depends on gender, doesn't it? So if you are a ENTP female, then you still are going to be stereotypically attracted to intelligence, a strong physical presence, ambition, confidence, still attracted to those things. So if you're a female ENTP, then you could be attracted to ENTJs, INTJs. Well, but we're not talking about attraction. We're talking about compatibility. So the reason that ENTPs are not typically compatible with the introverted intuitives is that the introverted intuitives have a plan. And if you're not following along with their plan, then they're going to leave you behind. End of story. You will have conflicts. You will think about all these possibilities, whereas the introverted intuitive believes that they have the correct outcome. They have the correct plan. And they don't want to hear your arguments. They don't want to hear about how it's going to go wrong in a million different ways. They are not interested. They believe that their plans are the best. And so that's where you're going to come across compatibility issues. Just, whether it's a friendship, romantically or otherwise, that's where you're going to run into problems. They have their plans, and you have an infinite number of possibilities in which that plan could go wrong. And whereas you want to spend time thinking about the most likely probability in terms of their plan, they want to have that plan executed immediately. They have no doubts about their plan, whereas you're going to have all the doubts. So that's why that's typically why extroverted intuitives have a issue when it comes to compatibility with introverted intuitives. Now, if you are, let's say romantically, you're in a relationship and you've got your own stuff going on and they've got their own stuff going on, and there's not a whole lot of overlap there, then it could be perfectly fine. But as soon as you try to make plans as a singular unit, it's either their way or the highway. And you're going to come across problems there, understandably. So for ENTPs, it really depends on what you want. Do you want a partner that is going to be more agreeable and do things at your pace, or do you want a partner that's not very agreeable and will do things the way that they want to do them? And that will determine your level of compatibility with that personality type. It's obviously strong preference to extroverted strong preference to introverted sensors. You're obviously going to have a bit of an issue there because they already have the correct course of action. It will have been the same course of action that they learned out of society, out of their programming, what their parents taught them, things like that. So they already know the right answer. And if you happen to not agree with that as being the correct course of action, well, once again, you're going to come across problems. I think that overall compatibility, though, you're probably going to want someone that is more agreeable. So you're probably looking for, now I've dated ESFPs before, and it doesn't usually end well in that particular case. But I would say, so ISFPs, INFPs, and probably ENFPs. And I suppose other ENTPs, because they would also be on the same page with things. The reason that I say ISFP is because they're typically more timid and they're more agreeable, especially when they're young. And so you can just decide on a course of action at your leisure, and they'll just nod their head and say, okay, let's do it. Whatever it is that you come up with. INFPs obviously can give you some issues because your plans may not form very well with their morals and values. And so there could be some conflicts there. ENFPs are a little bit more fungible on their morals and values, and ENTPs don't have any. So I would say those are a bit more, in quote, compatible personalities. But once again, you could just as easily go along with an ESFJ or an ISFJ, so long as you are fulfilling whatever role they believe that you are supposed to be fulfilling. So for standard ESFJ, ISFJ females here in the United States, as long as you're making money and all the bills are paid, and maybe you've got some money being saved up for other activities that involve the whole family, you do you, and they're not going to complain about it. As long as everything else is good, then they're not going to care. So
Did you explain why the ENFP, since they're not going to be as agreeable?
no, I said their morals are more fungible.
Oh, okay. That's it?
Yeah. That would be that's the issue with an ENTP and an INFP, is that you'll have to overcome that molehill of, well, it's going to affect their morals and values to go along with this plan or this idea. And that's very solidified for an INFP. They know what lines they won't cross, whereas an ENFP, it's that line can be moved. It's fungible. They can be, you can explain things to them. You can rationalize a position. So.
And what other amazing qualities does an ENFP have as a partner? Like, you're missing a lot here.
They understand the ENTP's sense of extroverted intuition. So they're going to be on the same wavelength. Like, okay, well, they're both pretty lazy personalities and like to take time to fully idealize a solution to a problem before implementing it. And so an ENFP will understand that it's going to take the ENTP some time before wanting to move forward with something or make a decision. So that's something they can understand. That's, compatibility. Let's see, what it was, SFP.
So the next one was Street Urchin. What's up with your channel's name? What's the meaning, a strategy for such an obscure name for a YouTube channel?
I was trying to figure out what my my YouTube channel would be, and I wanted it to be different, but not super weird, and have a bunch of numbers in it or be super edgy, etc. And I'm looking through my Facebook at the time, and one of the memories had come up that my grandma Sandra commented on one of my Facebook pictures where my hair was pretty long and it was kind of everywhere, and she said, "You need a haircut, you look like a street urchin." Street urchin. There we go. I'm gonna go with that. And so it was Grandma Sandra that gave me the idea for that.
So CL is saying romantically about the ENTP. He says, well, but I hear that the ENTP and INFJ are the golden pair.
It's any pair can be a golden pair so long as a certain criteria is met. If you're an ENTP and you got life figured out, you know what you're going to be doing, you're making good money, you've got your plan situated, which obviously that doesn't come until later in life, typically in ENTPs. Then yeah, you can get that INFJ, and yeah, that INFJ is still going to want to be doing their own thing. They still want to have their career. They still want to, go through the college and get the job experience, and they want to work on their own stuff. And so if you're cool with that, and the INFJ is cool with that, you guys just kind of being separated and doing your own thing, and then you come together once in a while to enjoy each other's company. The great golden pair. But if you're not living this absolute idealized life, you're going to come into some problems, some very obvious problems. Don't listen to the whole golden pair nonsense about MBTI types. That is all ridiculous, and there are way too many possibilities. There are way too many circumstances in which those relationships are not going to work. So do not follow MBTI to try and find a solid relationship for yourself. Look for common interests, not common cognitive functions. I've said that I don't know how many millions of times, but go with that. Do not just blindly follow MBTI and decide that that's how you should pick your romantic partners. Let's see, PenCap, however, way earlier.
So the next question was
ISFPs
from
would seek financial stability while ESTPs would seek personal stability. I think they end up doing both for both. ISFPs, typically in the females, yes, they're seeking financial stability. They oftentimes, more often than not, they try to seek it in a partner for financial stability. Whereas ISTPs who are not doing maybe so great in life, they don't have a romantic partner, they tend to want to look inward for some kind of inner stability, more strength of character. Hold on. And then Ambient Disguise says, could you help describe how easily to spot the difference between a depressed INFP and an ISFP? Well, even a depressed ISFP is still dealing with the real world. They're still cleaning the house. They're still going to work. They're still getting these things done. Maybe they'll wander off to the bathroom to cry once in a while. Whereas an INFP, they can't, well, not that they can't, they have a much more difficult time pulling themselves out of the memories that are causing the depression, which can lead them completely bedridden for days, weeks, so on and so forth. So one takes it a lot harder than the other.
okay. Wait, you're
hold on.
skipping questions.
Well, I know I'm skipping questions. I'm looking at what I got here.
Okay.
Like the next one I was gonna go off was 88 Mahi says, "How are you feeling today?" That's where I'm at now. But what other questions?
Oh no. Yeah, there's more up. So Daibi says, is extrovert intuition just dealing with people as a dominant function? Or I still don't know how I use extrovert intuition in my daily life or the purpose of it being an ENFP.
Extroverted intuition is not just dealing with people. So extroverted intuition enjoys dealing with the abstract things that exist, concepts that exist as thought, imaginary scenarios, things that aren't real. That's where they like to spend most of their time as a lead preference. So they, of course, ignore their physical space 90+% of the time. So it can be dealing with people, but only if it's interesting to that extroverted intuitive to deal with those people. But if they're not going to find it interesting in that particular moment, then they don't deal with people at all. So it's more just dealing with the abstract, coming up with their own little stories, fantasies, living in them, ignoring their surroundings, not paying bills on time, not taking the trash out, not folding their clothes, not doing the dishes, not cleaning their bathroom, not doing, normal human things. So when it's in the lead position, that's what it ends up looking like.
Thanks everybody that's here. We have that has been joining the stream. Please make sure that you're liking and subscribing to the channel and ask all the questions that you would like. Street Ocean is here to answer them.
Yes.
So make sure you hit.
As a matter of fact, I'm worried that my game's just gonna crash again. So we're gonna full screen this, and yes, I just, now that I full screen that, I can see that my bed's not it's not in the best condition.
It looks like it always looks like.
Yes, that is normally what it looks like. Mm-hmm. What's the next one?
The next one is from Mahi. The one that you were going to read. That's the next one.
How are you feeling today, Street Urchin? You are at your strongest. Like how? What odd reasons? You are too confident, and I'm fine with it, so not worry. Am I at my strongest? I wouldn't say so. not in any capacity am I at my strongest. In terms of confidence, I talk to people regularly. I make videos. I do these streams, and so I've done it for so long that yes, I suppose that I have confidence in that I know how to do it. So maybe I'm just not worried. So maybe you're seeing that as a sense of confidence. My grandfather is in the hospital at the moment, and they're not sure if he's gonna pull through. I think he's going to, but everyone else is convinced that he's gonna die in the hospital. I'm like, nah. He'll be back.
Hey, Urchin. Hey, Ben.
It's cookie dough.
Hi, Coquito. You're
Hi,
beautiful. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. Feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm fine.
Well,
Oh,
great.
that's... oh, Coquito, show everybody. Can we show everybody your donuts? Did you show Street Urchin?
You can. They're Moroccan donuts.
Yeah, Urchin.
Moroccan donuts.
Show us. Did she send you the?
Let's see here. Are they in the voice chat?
No, I'll send that to you in 1 second. They are really nice. There you go.
All right. Boy, it got bright, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Those are neat looking donuts.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I can bring that over and then kind of just move it down a little bit. Some Moroccan donuts. They look very donutty. They look fluffy. No,
Yes, they look really
look.
good.
Thank you.
And they're like a perfect circle.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole, it looks beautiful.
You have
Nice
mastered your craft, cookie dough. Well done.
job.
I had no doubts, though.
Yes.
Thank you,
That's
Ambient
why
Disguise.
That's why he made you an oven as a kitchen.
Right. What were you? No,
Things to
right?
not say on YouTube streams. More questions, Ben. Let's go.
Yes. So the next thing we have is going to be, how come people design fictional characters that fit MBTI types pretty well, yet simultaneously suck at actually perceiving the functions correctly in people? LOL. And this is from Bone.
Well, I imagine that there are a number of fictional writers that have somewhat of a preference for extroverted intuition. And so they may end up kind of making these imaginary worlds that these idealized versions of worlds and how people behave without having enough of a strong sense of extroverted feeling. So to have this desire to really get to know these people on some more objective levels, and so they may come up with some problems when it comes to that. It's just in real life, people do not just automatically behave by this standard set of rules. Life is contextual. We deal in different circumstances that require us to use different functions, and so you can't just say that, oh, well, an INFP normally behaves this way, but if they're having to defuse a bomb, that they're not going to try to follow a manual and then logically determine which wire needs to be cut. They're not going to try to feel the bomb to death. No, they're going to try and apply what they've got. It's just that's real life. People use all the functions, and they do their best to use whatever functions that their brain believes is appropriate for the situation.
So the next thing that we have, clubby NTPs. Oh no, this is just clubby NTP agreeing that any NTP and an INFJ get things done, and with any J type. See, the problem with this is that at this point, I believe that not a lot of people know what an INFJ looks like.
A lot of people don't know what an INFJ looks like.
Every single time someone says they don't know an INFJ, I'm like, I'm not sure. Or an ENFP. I've added the ENFP there because at this point, I believe that all ENFPs that say they're ENFPs are INFPs or some other type. Because I'm like,
it's possible.
And then CL is asking the correlation between MBTI and Enneagram.
That I don't know enough about Enneagram to see any correlations there. I have heard some things about ENTPs that are specific Enneagram types, like you can't be an ENTP without having this certain Enneagram type. I don't know really anything about it. I'm not interested in any ring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid.
Stefan says hello. Hi, Stefan.
Hello, Stefan. Stefan. Steven.
Stefan. Yeah,
It's one of those.
I wasn't really sure. I apologize. Bone is asking, what is an ESFJ? What if an ESFJ was forced to live in an isolated hunter-gatherer lifestyle? What use would FE be? Would they start developing their other
Well,
functions?
so here's the fun part about extroverted feeling. It's what keeps society together. So if you were in a hunter-gatherer tribe, the extroverted feeling would be even, it would seemingly be even more necessary because in those tribes, you didn't just have police to come by and protect you when someone wanted to attack you. Extroverted feeling plays an even more important role in those early hunter-gatherer tribes. You need to look out for one another. You need to make sure that the tribe stays coherent, it stays harmonious, and that everyone is doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And so, extroverted feeling would play a huge role in a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And no, an ESFJ wouldn't just be developing a whole bunch of other skills. I mean, sure, they would maybe learn to do some hunting on their own. That makes perfect sense. But realistically, they're going to be assigning people jobs based on what the ESFJ believes they're the best at, and then have them go to micromanaging, the schedules and making sure that everyone's doing what they need to do. And then once they brought all the resources to the ESFJ, they'll be able to hand it out with some manner of, I would assume, equity, not necessarily equality.
So bone means an ESFJ on its own in this hunter-gathering situation.
Say what?
Yeah, what bone, his question is an ESFJ on his own. So no one else, just the ESFJ.
Oh, just the ESFJ on their own?
Yes.
Well, I would hope that they would learn to survive on their own very quickly. They would also, of course, go crazy that they don't have other people around. They would their first their absolute top priority objective is to find other people, or to maybe find a pet or multiple pets, and hope that they could survive. Although I don't know how many ESFJs would in fact survive without other people around.
So Stefan says, I think people, I think feelers can develop
Mhm.
things, just preferences, nothing more or less. I mean, yes, we think as well.
Yes, I tell the people that regularly. I'm like, just because someone's got a strong preference for an introverted feeling function doesn't mean that they don't think. That is, that's a very, it would be very silly to assume that some people just don't have logical thoughts. That would be ridiculous. And of course, all of your functions are supposed to develop as you get older. And so you will come across more situations in which you'll learn where logic was more important or gave you a greater benefit or it had a more positive outcome, and then you'll do your best to retain that information so that you can use it later on.
Okay, so CL asks, what does an ENTP typically look for in a partner?
Definitely, well, I would imagine depends on age and their lifestyle in general. So if you're living a average, let's say the average ENTP usually grows up in a middle class to upper middle class household where they're allowed to explore all of their ideas and then go into whatever field of study they want to go into. Usually it's entertainment related. But let's say you're living the Tony Stark lifestyle. Well, when it comes to looking for a partner, whoever you find attractive at that very moment, you have your fun with that partner and then you go find another one. That's the Tony Stark lifestyle for an ENTP. But for the average ENTP, I imagine that they'll run through the gambit and they'll try different personalities, see how it plays out. And I would think that you're either going to settle for just having a partner that's agreeable and vaguely compatible with your lifestyle, or you're still just gonna die alone. Those are...
I'm not gonna let you die alone, don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
Navar Valor is asking, do you know why the axes are connected or how they interact with each other? So TIFE.
So I've seen it as more of this balancing act in terms of how the human brain tries to deal with reality. So in the case of, let's say, an INTP, they're following their logic a great deal, and so when they're stuck in their own personal logic and understanding of things, then they tend to neglect the social aspects of life, understandably. What's it's compounded by by extroverted intuition in the second position, and so typically when they want to extrovert, they want to go with ideas, abstract thoughts, etc., and understandably, there's not many other people that want to be talking about those subjects all the time, so they end up becoming ostracized, getting even further away from having a greater experience with extroverted feeling, and so lost somebody.
Cookie dough.
Lost cookie dough.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it's more of a balancing act in terms of how they might be connected, but I can explain all the functions in a vacuum as to how they behave. So it's not entirely necessary that they be explained as an axis. It's just that there is somewhat of a balancing act there that you can argue exists. For introverted sensing and extroverted intuition, if you're leading your life with introverted sensing, that means you are following the rules, you are following the cultures, the values, of the traditions that you were brought up in. Your programming is telling you that, and so if you're living that way, then you're obviously not going to be spending a lot of time trying to branch out away from it and trying out these imaginary scenarios or really dealing with the abstract. You are simply following the path that's already been set before you, and so that puts extroverted intuition in the last position.
What are some clear signs that someone is an INTP and not an ENTP? Says Chris. Hi, Chris. Hello.
Asperger's. That is the clear. That is the easiest way to spot an INTP in the open, as they're not great at social situations. They do their best. They're not trying to be unpleasant, but they say things that are, let's say, ruining the flow of the conversation. A lot, regularly. So.
Now, Joshi Yolo, welcome Joshi Yolo,
Welcome.
is asking ENTPs versus INTPs in debates. What are the similarities and differences in which these go about debating topics?
The only time I've ever had any real debates with any INTPs has always been about people. They have their own theorized understanding of people. It's mostly just the theory. They don't want to oftentimes go out there and use these theories and try to make sure that they're consistent with real life, versus an ENTP who actually does interact with people, gets people to like them, wants to learn people more in depth, treat them as these people puzzles, figure them out, what are their motivations. So that's the only time I ever really get into a debate with an INTP. It's always about people. Everything else is non-debatable. They're usually on the same page about everything else.
I think the question is more like how they go about debating, like not between each other in general.
What are the similarities and differences?
Yes.
I've found that INTPs want to bring up statistics more and hard data to promote their argument, whereas the ENTP wants to really just focus on the logic and principles therein of the argument.
Okay. So did I already ask what does an ENTP look for in a partner? Yes, I did.
You sure did.
Next one is, Druid, this Emma Disguy says, I recently saw a woman on YouTube who claimed INFJ, and it was convincing, given your description. She recommended that even if you like certain personality types, of they aren't beneficial. You should try your best to avoid them in your life. Would you agree with this advice?
Try to avoid certain personalities.
Yes.
Once you've gotten to know those personalities, then if you decide that they are not beneficial to your life, then you can go ahead and avoid them. There are certain personality types that I do avoid, and I'm not going to name them here. But I think it's beneficial for you to know the extremes of personality types. So learn the extremes of all the functions, what those functions look like in a lead position. And once you've got it figured out, then make those decisions.
That's good. And then Bone asks, would a type be worse at a function if it's in their fifth or eighth compared to someone who has it in their fourth?
No, it doesn't seem that that's the case. It seems so. I had this idea for what I would call a function tower, and then you've got the foundations of what your personality is built on. And so an example would be, let's take introverted sensing. Introverted sensing is about experiencing things and then storing them for future use. That's what it's about. So how far removed would it be from the human mind to instead just experience something new and then let it go? Doesn't seem like it'd be that much of a jump. Same with extroverted intuition and introverted intuition. Possibilities for everything around me. For extroverted intuition, then introverted intuition, ideas for me. Everything but me, everything, ideas for me. Is it really that far of a jump to imagine such a thing? I don't think so. It's a question of whether or not you, how much you're gonna preference using that function. And so I don't think that, and of course we'd also have to just describe what worse means. I think it's just a matter of preference. You just don't preference it as much. And which, by the way, the less you preference something, the less experience you gain with it, the fewer tips and tricks you're going to learn for using those functions. So.
Great.
I don't think it would be worse.
Could you talk more about the shadow functions in your future videos?
I could if I really believed I needed to put stock into it. Your first two functions are you. That's who you are. You can try to develop other functions. You can try to put yourself in situations in which those other functions might need to be more preferenced or more useful. You can try and do that, but the further you get away from those first two functions, the more tiring these other functions become for you. It would be like, it would be me all of a sudden changing my life around. Like, let's say I wanted to instead focus on introverted intuition and extroverted thinking. That's not going to work. I know that's not going to work for me. Spending that much time just focusing on my own personal success about anything, that's not fun. It's not enjoyable for me. I don't necessarily care if what I'm going to be doing is going to provide me some objective success. I'm doing it because I want to have the experience of that train of thought, to have this idea come to life and see if it works. It doesn't necessarily need to benefit me whatsoever. That's where the fun is for me in life. And instead to try and turn all of these ideas into specifically things that are going to just help me, it's very tiring. It's very tiring, and I can't do it for very long. It's usually just in very short spurts that I can pull that off.
Mm-hmm. Now, Joshi Yolo, who asked a question about how ENTPs versus INTPs, like the differences and similarities were, he says, so to be clear, any DOM's ENTP is more focused on logic than the TI DOM INTP called the logician. When people talk about bringing up statistics, they usually refer to TI DOMs like ENTJs who use common data.
An INTP, if they're going to have a debate, they want to focus on their personal research, their logic. That's what they're going to be focusing on, and it's oftentimes very removed from people. But that's really where that's usually where the differences are going to lie. I have known that INTPs do want to bring up the research that they have found that it was congruent with their introverted thinking to help bolster an argument. Whereas an ENTP, for example, wants to bring up the human element that's involved, the social aspect that's involved in whatever the debate happens to be. And if that's not relevant, then, like I said, there's not going to be a lot of dissimilarities between how they would do it. I would think that an ENTP tries to be more relatable during a debate. They want everyone to understand in a more relatable way, whereas an INTP may instead focus on those numbers of their own personal research, the things that they have found to be true.
GI DOMs use T regularly. I think a lot of people, because it's so far removed, don't think that. But to be able to use TI, they need to have some investigation with it.
Yeah, being a lead introverted thinker does mean that you have somewhat of a preference for extroverted thinking as well. I mean, still, that extroverted thinking that they want to use needs to be congruent with the rest of their personal logic, but they still will go for it.
Immortal Emperor Master asked, I've asked several INFPs how it's like to be an FI Dom, and the general answer was that they trust their gut feeling. That doesn't make sense to me. How would you describe the way FI Doms use their FI?
That is exactly how I describe introverted feelers to use their introverted feeling on a decision. It's a gut instinct. It's a feeling. It's an unrationalized belief. They roll with it. So, how were the female ISTPs you've met? They were pleasant. They were, of course, more masculine in conversation. And they were more masculine about their romantic partners.
I think when someone describes the FI people using their gut instinct to make a choice, it's not going to make sense for an FI that doesn't realize that they're using it because they actually do believe that they have a reason behind it. They're probably going to get stumped when you ask them to articulate that reason. That's when they're probably going to not be able to explain it. And they're going to just be like, oh, what I've seen is like they believe that they can explain it because they have to explain it a certain type of way, but they just don't realize that they can't explain it because they just don't have a reason to do it, like an actual reason or they felt it.
The most common phrase I've heard for someone answering with an introverted feeling response is, I just know it. That's the most common phrase I heard. More about female ISTPs. They're more physical. They still engage in, they do love competitive activities. So whether that be bowling or some other kind of a sport, or whether it's playing video games, they enjoy player versus player stuff. Not as big on cooperative activities. They tend to want to do things alone when they can as a personal challenge, but they're like the male ISTPs, but with boobs.
Don't forget to join the Discord, and everybody, thank you for being here, and to like and subscribe to the channel.
Every 30 minutes.
Yes. Look, you don't say it. You should be saying it. Like, you're the one that has to be saying it, because they're seeing you.
Uh-huh.
Does anybody have questions on the videos that were posted this week or last week? We had the ENTP female interview type talks. I hope you guys shared it with everybody that you know.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
Ven, do you have any questions on that?
I have a question as to a person that saw the video thought that Bob was an ENFP. What would you say to that?
I would say that I would simply ask in what parts did it come out as ENFP, and then maybe we can rationalize it.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. Someone said she was an ENTP because it was in her eyes, and that was the funniest one.
It was in her eyes, in her bloodshot eyes.
What are you vaping, Christian?
What am I vaping? We are vaping blue Nomenon ice, 6 milligrams. I had gotten all the way down to 3 milligrams, and then I needed to start saving some money, so I decided that instead of vaping twice the normal amount on 3 milligrams, I would just go back up to 6 milligrams and get one bottle. Last me for maybe a week and a half or something. Let's see. I like menthol a lot, so. What are the main differences to ENTP and ENFP? Well, the main difference is a preference for introverted feeling and extroverted thinking versus introverted thinking and extroverted feeling. So I think it comes down to certain everyday morals. ENFPs are more in tune with their particular morals, values, etc., whereas an ENTP says, LOL, what are values and morals? So there's that. However, both, of course, can be rational, both can be logical, both typically have a lot of ideas. The ENFP tends to actually exact those, they enact those ideas. So they have a plan for something, they've got this idea, and then they, with that extroverted thinking, they can go for it. The process would be, I have an idea, it feels right, I'm going to do it. And they actually do it. Then, for example, wrote a book, had the book edited, and is then having it published. And that's the, that go get it done attitude that extroverted thinking gives them.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you explain that a little bit more when the first part you just said? Because you always make it seem. Wait, I forgot what you said though, but I know there was something.
I want you to re-explain something that I forgot. Okay, well.
You were the one that were explaining the main differences between the ENTP and ENFP. What was the first thing you said?
The first thing I said was ENFPs are a little bit more in touch with their morals and values, whereas an ENTP doesn't typically have morals and values, especially the more common ones, things like premarital relations, cheating on your partner, whether something's right or wrong. Those are things that an ENFP has a stronger grasp of, whereas the ENTP has no grasp on those things. ENTPs treat life as a game. People are simply pieces on a board, and don't consider, especially when they're young, they don't consider how other people might feel about being manipulated.
Okay. And how else would you describe that? Like, give us more on the differences between an ENTP and an ENFP. I mean, you should be good at this. You know a lot of ENFPs.
Well, I mean, the differences are vast here. I'm trying to get them concise and down to some bite-sized things. So
no. Tell us.
Tell you literally everything, and I'm like, well, that's.
Yeah.
I don't have the years.
And give us examples. Give us examples.
I gave examples, like the whole morals, values, etc. And then I said that ENTPs are typically promiscuous. Typically, they are looking for as many interactions with people as possible. They want to experience the new interactions with people, how to manipulate them, how to best enjoy them, and how to best get rid of them. Whereas ENFPs are far more considerate on how people might feel based on their actions.
Do you think that is accurate, considering that the ENTP employs the FE more than the ENFP does? So how would you...
Wait, say that again?
The ENTP, would you consider what you just said about the ENFPs being more considerate. Something that's typically happens because if the way that I've been noticing is that the ENTP is far more considerate than an ENFP when it comes to
Not about people's
people.
feelings.
Okay. Because they just want to placate, so they're gonna go with it. Now the ENFP is gonna have no problem.
when I placate for reasons. If I have nothing
Yeah.
to gain, they're gone. I don't try to sugarcoat anything. Usually I'm fairly good at finding a use for everyone, monetary or otherwise. But if I'm going to get nothing from them, or they're going to cause too many problems in my social circle, then they get axed. And I just lay down the truth. It's not.
Have you ever asked anybody from your social circle?
I have.
Tell us about that.
I have. Typically, it's usually it ends up being an ESFP, sometimes an ISFP that gets a little too lippy. I have axed an INFP or two from my life. That has happened. And then, of course, when it comes to certain personalities like introverted, intuitive preference types, I don't get a whole lot of them in my social circles. But that's because they're too busy doing their own things, which is fine and fair.
Stefan, if you are getting ENFP and ENTP in your test and you're not sure, then you can definitely maybe get typed by Urchin.
You could definitely get typed by Urchin. But as an ENTP, if you're an ENTP, you should not be getting either one of the. You shouldn't be teetering between the two. And as I've said, ENFPs aren't stupidly emotional and just always care about people's feelings all the time. It's going to be situational. They're more interested in the analytics regarding people's feelings. And so that understandably, that naturally makes them a little more attuned to it. They're more considerate of people's feelings, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Introverted feeling is not in the first position, it's in the second position.
So what would you say are the differences between how you get to know a person or treat a person and how I would treat a person as an ENFP and an ENTP?
I imagine that we would end up treating them the same at the beginning, just being nice, trying to be respectful. But with it really would depend on the person. If they are an ESFP, being outwardly and openly annoying to everyone and not realizing it, an ENFP is over time more likely to crack and then let the ESFP know that they're being very annoying. Whereas with for me, usually I just separate myself from them nowadays in my older age. When I was younger, I would say things I was rather blunt, rather outspoken when it came to informing someone that they were disrupting a group dynamic. But now I just kind of drift away and avoid the confrontation altogether, if I can.
Correct. So this is what I meant by saying that typically the ENTP is far more considerate than the ENFP when it comes to the social group and harmony.
No, they consider the feelings. It's just whether or not whether or not it's worth it to harm the person's feelings.
Yep. PenCap is asking, can you talk more about the ENFPs you've known?
Well, the ones I've known the longest are my father and my I think the third oldest son. They behave very similarly in terms of cognitive function preference, almost exactly the same. They're both martyrs that absolutely want to take care of family or people that are very close to them, and they will sacrifice mind and body to make sure that people are feeling good and that they're happy and doing well. And then, of course, they can have their emotional outbursts when things aren't going well, usually by their own hand. That things aren't going well. But they tend to take on a lot of responsibilities, those two. And so, understandably, they can only handle so much, and they eventually crack.
Hmm. See, when someone asks me a few questions, you need to include me so I know what I do as well. You know,
And
I like
Ven
get
is
the
just a sweetheart. She is sacrificing her time, her resources to help me help this channel. She's doing a fantastic job across the board. And I do my best not to poke too much fun at her.
You just called me a sweetheart, so I don't know if you're good at it.
Every time I call her sweetheart, she thinks it's a personal insult.
CL says it was interesting when you mentioned the connection between ENTP and socionics.
I think it says socioeconomics.
Economics, yes.
English isn't her first language, so it's
I
all right.
was distracted with something else already.
Well, let's see here. When I mentioned the connection between ENTP and socioeconomics, so if we're talking about the economic status of most ENTPs, it usually doesn't start out great, especially when they're having to basically essentially start out from scratch, having to build up their own resources, their own networks. They don't have parents that are there to support them or help them gain success. So that can be difficult. Ven and I recently read that economics MBTI type thing where it showed that ENTP was at one of the lowest in terms of national average income until they hit about 35. And then all of a sudden their average income is supposed to skyrocket past everyone else's. I was like, wow. Well, I better get to work then. Need to get up there.
Yep, yep, yep. That was ridiculous.
So don't worry, everybody. I'll be rich this time next year.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
not possible because
rich.
it even said that at in their 20s you should be like in the I think you were the fifth or fourth highest in income.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not there either. So I don't know how. So Stefan asked, "What type are you?"
I'm sure that I must have dropped some context clues in there at some point. I may have even said the type, possibly. But don't worry,
Yes.
Stephen. I believe in you, and you're gonna figure it out.
Club ENTP asked, "What do you think Carl Jung meant when he said the ENTP archetype cannot be directly observed?"
I imagine that it's because the ENTP is always trying to put on a show. That would be my guess as to because obviously an ENTP can be observed out in the wild. You just may not know that they're an ENTP. You may not be aware of the cognitive functions being used. So I would think that in terms of being directly observed, no, an ENTP is always going to put on a show, unless they're around someone that they can absolutely trust about their absolute most personal things and being as real as possible, because that mask is made of iron, and for it to come off is unlikely to happen in a public setting.
Okay, so do you think that TI deciding process is more complicated than FI?
I don't necessarily believe that it's inherently more complicated. I believe that it may take more time to come to a rationalization. So there are many instances in which introverted feeling can be a much simpler process, a much simpler process. Do you like cheesecake? This is an introverted feeling question. Do you like it? Do you not like it?
It depends.
Introverted feeling is going to say yes, no. It's done. It's whatever.
Do we?
And so that's not particularly complicated. Now you ask if you're asking an INFP, is it morally right to take money from taxpayers to pay for the people that don't work? That's a more complicated issue for introverted feeling to come to grips with, because they have to figure out, well, it's wrong to steal from people, it's also wrong to let people die. Is it morally right or wrong to do these things? And then they're going to have to mull that over for a while to come to a conclusion. So it's contextual. I wouldn't say that either one is necessarily more complicated than the other. I think that introverted thinking oftentimes takes more time to finalize its results, but I don't think one's necessarily more complicated.
Joshi Yellow. What function is that used when you take on others' emotions, like feeling bad for beating someone in a game, or when you say something blunt to someone, but then later on consider the emotional consequences?
Are you talking about guilt?
Yes.
No, that's introverted feeling. Guilt is introverted feeling. You did something morally somewhere inside you. It was morally wrong to have done what you did. ENTPs do have feelings. They're buried very deep down.
That's not true. Urchin is an emotional mess all the time.
All the time.
I'm just kidding, guys. That's not what happens. So you're confusing Steven, because we were talking with Stefan earlier and you said Steven. So Steven was asking, do you still offer typings? And yes, Steven, he does.
And
Tell him more about that.
Ven sent a link to the Discord where you can put in for an application. You just have to go through a very quick verification process. It's all done. It's all automated. So as long as you read the instructions, then you will be able to come into the Discord without any issue.
Correct. And then CL said, well, he was the one that asked the question about ENTPs and socioeconomics. He responded to what you said by saying, I meant about the ENTP growing up in a certain economic background and being able to explore their interests outside of it's outside of interests like entertainment.
Oh,
We're
outside
gonna
of
put
interests
that.
like, let's see, a certain economic background. So yeah, if you grow up poor and you don't have a lot of financial support, you'll do your best to survive. I was in such a situation, and so I survived off of extroverted feeling, manipulating, getting people to, let's say, buy me food, take me on car rides from one side of town to the other, convincing people that I needed to do a job for them and that they needed to pay me for doing it, things like that. And as for my interest outside of entertainment, that's what computers are good for. And so every ENTP should have a computer, because that's where you get to explore all your fun sciences or your animes, new types of technologies, other sciencey related things. And then, of course, psychology, philosophy. You can get a whole lot of that stuff.
Dan Paparazzi says, a 22-year-old ESFP man is reporting to me at work. He is constantly oversharing what he thinks and being too informal with coworkers. How to help him improve? He doesn't like receiving criticism. Oh no.
You fire them.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with it. You fire them. That's ESFPs get fired regularly in many jobs that I've worked at. They are one of the first peoples to get fired after I'm hired on. You see the ESFPs, they typically don't last very long.
That makes sense. What other questions do we have? So tell us a little bit about your typing process, Urchin, and the applications.
I ask questions. Sometimes they can get rather personal, but thankfully my sessions are not recorded. and it's usually just me and potentially 2 assistants that are also learning the process and typing people. And they typically don't say anything. They maybe ask one question at the very end of it. But I ask questions about what you do, what you've been doing. I ask questions about your general memory. I test you on those things. Test your ability to apply extroverted intuition. I test your ability to answer philosophical questions, in what direction you choose to go with in answering them. And then and over the course of an hour, we get your aggregate results, and then we figure out which type you are based on the results we received.
That is correct.
What else we
So
got?
Chloe NTP says, I think it was you who said that the more creative the NTP, the less executive, and the less creative, the more they implement their ideas. So how creative are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't know if that's exactly what I said. I don't even remember saying any of that at all. I'm sure I did. I don't. I'll take your word for it that I did say something like that. Uh, the more creative an ENTP, the less executive, and less creative, the more they implement their ideas. Well, the ENTP cares about the creative process when it comes to coming up with a solution. They just want other people to finish the solution for them. So I'm not sure I could give a how creative am I on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd need to come up with something more objective. We would need to pick some people, like what would be a 1 on the creative scale versus what's a 10 on the creative scale, and then we'd have to come up with our own subjective measurements for what really creative looks like. So I would say that I live in my imagination more than the average person, certainly. But as to how much more than the average person, I don't know. And that was the best extroverted feeling answer I could give in regards to that question. Stay humble.
Stay humble. Okay.
Stay humble.
So now the next question that we have. What types do you think are most likely to be cat people versus dog people? And I want you to do all the types.
No, I'm not going to do all the types. I am instead going to say that if you're a cat person, there's something wrong with you in here someplace. It could be that you're mentally disturbed. It could be that you have a severe case of toxoplasmosis, but there's something wrong in here. You're not thinking enough. And so if you're a cat person, you're probably some measure of introverted feeling person, like Ven here. She's a big
What?
cat person. She loves cats.
I am not. I do not like even cats a little bit. Oh, Pencap, do you know a well-written ENFP in fiction? Yes, Pencap. I will answer this question as the resident ENFP in this call. Wei Wuxian from Mo Dao Suchi, or the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Best written ENFP that I've seen. He is a true ENFP. So I would totally. I was debating between ENTP and ENFP, but the man, there's no ENTP. He has to be an ENFP. Great show, by the way.
I have no idea what she's talking about. Is this like a K-drama?
It is a Chinese drama, yes.
So it's not a Korean drama; it's a Chinese drama. C-drama.
It is on. It is on Netflix. There's 2 versions. Well, there's 3. There's a book. There's a manhwa if you want to read like a comic book. There's an audiobook on it. The audiobook is translated to English. There's a live adaptation, the action TV show on Netflix called The Untamed. It's the same of the book. And then there's the anime version of it. So the anime version of it is really good. Very dark because, again, it's called the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. But the only thing is, the characters all look the same, so it's kind of hard to tell them apart. And it's already very confusing because they all use swords, and that's pretty much it. So I would recommend the live adaptation. Terrible CGI. They didn't have a budget, but it's a really, really good show. It's my favorite show, in fact. I watch it every year.
I don't know of necessarily any. I'd have to go back and think about ENFP characters that I might have known and see if any of them were particularly well written.
Yeah. I have asked Urchin that question too because I wanted to find ENFPs in fiction, and he hasn't been able to kind of tell me of an ENFP that he has seen yet. So this is what I say.
I'm sure it's buried in there somewhere. I just need to remember it.
Yeah. A lot of people, though, they're always saying, "No, this person is an ENFP, and it's not an ENFP when I look at them." So I don't think, again, this is why I say I don't think most people know what an ENFP looks like at this point.
I've noticed that a lot of people get ESFP and ENFP confused. That happens a lot.
No, that is impossible.
I'm saying people get it confused. I'm not saying that you get it confused. I'm saying people in general get the two confused.
I've seen the ENFP be very confused with the INFP and the ISFP and ESFP as well, but typically it looks like more the INFP, but definitely. We're not like them. I'm just gonna say that. Very different. So Dan Paparazzi says how to avoid having to fire the young ESFP. He's not hopeless. He's good at networking. He wants to succeed. He just doesn't work to change who he is. Tries to blame coworkers or BS me.
ESFPs are missing some functions that some function preferences that help them learn from their mistakes. So extroverted sensing by itself is described as experiencing things and then letting it go. Letting it go. Letting it go. And so their first response isn't to remember what they did wrong last time. And so it's very easy for an ESFP to continuously do that because they're going to follow their instinct and their gut on what they think the correct course of action is more often than not. So, and then when it comes to caring about the perspectives of other people, well, we know that that's inherently an extroverted intuitive process. So that is in the 8th position. So they are typically blind to that. I always try to help ESFPs work on considering the perspectives of others, but as soon as their emotions kind of bubble up, they tend to forget whatever they've learned in regards to using that function. So ESFPs get fired a lot regularly from many, typical jobs. Thanks for being here, Club ENTP.
So Joshi Yolo says, Bone says, as a cat person, I can say the same to you. Joshi Yolo. Sorry, go ahead.
Yoshi, you may want to get checked for toxoplasmosis.
No, that was Bone.
Oh, Bone. Okay, Bone. Yes. Not Yoshi, Bone, whoever it was.
So Yoshi Yolo says, I can't figure out what my type is. I always got ENTP, and when I and still am very offensive. However, I notice the people who I offend tend to think aren't actually authentic. See, that's ENFP right there, just saying. I share my many similarities between ENTP, but I sometimes also see ENTJ as relatable. Me too. I always say that that's my spirit animal.
I think that we can relate to some things that other personalities do sometimes. But there's a vast difference between an ENFP and an ENTJ. There's a huge, bigly difference in how those functions get preferenced.
Mm-hmm. And then he says, but based on your information, it seems I'm more ENFP. It could make sense since ENFP has ENTP and ENTJ functions, but in different orders. I can relate to this, and I've always gotten ENTP in test, Yoshi. So I've never gotten a test where I was an ENFP. Like, even I had Urchin do the test for me, and he still got ENTP
Yeah,
twice. So,
I straight up gave a bunch of introverted feeling answers where the test scored really high on introverted feeling, and even at the end of it still gave out ENTP. So there's something that test isn't exactly correct.
I think the issue is because ENFPs tend to be analytical as well. That might be what's causing, and because our extrovert intuition is at the top, and our thinking can also be a little bit higher, then I'm going to say that that's why ENFPs tend to get ENTPs in the test. I still haven't seen an actual ENFP that has gotten ENFP in a test.
Yeah,
So it
and
would
as
be
I said,
interesting.
I don't trust tests. I think all of them have some big flaws, one way or another. Don't trust the tests. Trust
That's
your own
true.
research. Do your own research. Go outside, experiment with it. See if there's congruency between the types you're finding and the general theme of the frequency charts. See if your theories are coming to life. Now, of course, not everybody has time for that, understandably. I wasted 10 years of my life on it, so.
Yep, that's accurate. I will say that it would be interesting to type you, and I understand why you relate to ENTJ. When I'm actually working, like I can spend months just, like for example, in my job, sometimes I would work 24 hours. Like I would stay even after hours, and I wouldn't go home. I would work my 2 shifts, and then like the entire night there, and everybody else was home, and you would find me there working, just always working, and I was fine with that. I had no issues with it. So I understand why you might relate to ENTJ. If you're actually an ENFP, I don't know, right? We would have to type you. But I also related to ENTP because I actually thought I was an ENTP because of how ENTPs are described, and even when Urchin describes it, still I tell him it is still very relatable to me. So it makes sense why you would relate to ENTP and ENTJ at the same time. At least to me, it makes sense because I have been there. I hope that was helpful. Let's see the next one, Urchin. Poison Ivy says hello.
Hello. Wait, who said
Poison
hello?
Ivy. Poison Ivy.
Oh, Poison Ivy. Hello, Poison Ivy.
Yes. Club ENTP says, oh, I think you already responded. He says he has to go. So goodbye, Club ENTP. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're here next Saturday. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Urchin, you should tell them when you're releasing your videos now.
Thursdays.
Thursdays at 10 a.m. PST.
And I'm trying to find the time and effort to do 2 videos a week, and I'll keep you posted on that one.
Yes.
But so far it's Thursdays, and I was thinking if I was going to release a second video, it might be on Sundays, because those seem to be the 2 times people watch my videos the most. So.
Yep. Now, next question. What was Catherine and Myers, or Myers and Briggs' personality type?
No idea. None whatsoever. I did not research their personal lives at all.
So I'm actually trying to find the book that they wrote. It's kind of hard to find as far as I can tell. I believe one of them was an INFP, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. So I guess I'm gonna use T here and tell you Google it.
Google it.
So Pencap says, Urchin, bold of you to assume an ISFP, specifically me, can trust their own judgments.
Extroverted sensing is still dealing with real life. We all live in a physical reality, and so when it comes to physical things, I would at the very least take into consideration what an ISFP had to say. Whether I'd agree with it or not is up for debate, but I would at least consider it.
Emma Disguise says, to Ven, it's hard for a lot of people to visualize some personality types as a hero/villain types, which generally are the most focused on characters, hence why some types get overlooked in typing. No, I honestly just haven't really seen a lot of ENFP's characters. I think ENFPs, once you get to know one, we're different in particular ways when it comes to the taking care of the people that we love, and I think that's the biggest difference. And to be able to show that in a TV show, most people are not like that, and it's not. I don't think it's as entertaining maybe to put that on a show. Like it's not something very common that you'll typically see. So it's not like, for example, a lot of people that I meet always tell me that, oh, I've never met someone that's going to do this because of this. And I'm just like, well, why not? It makes no sense to me why someone would not want to help someone else. So I think that's hard to put that into. Most people don't put that into a TV show. I think that's the case. Archon,
I zoned
what do
out.
you think? Of course you did.
I was thinking about Chandler from Friends, and that people called him an
Yeah.
ENTP, and I'm like, I didn't see it. Now, granted, I didn't watch a lot of Friends, but I'm like, trying to think back to what I remember. He was just
Really?
awkward and stupid. I
thought
think.
he was an ENFP.
See, I thought maybe he would have been an ENFP, not an ENTP, but I don't know. I'd have to.
Pencap, another ENFP character, Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now that I just remember that.
Which one was Jake Peralta?
The main character, Andy Samberg.
Oh, yeah, Andy Sandberg seemed real ENFP. I enjoyed that. I didn't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine for Andy Samberg. I watched it for Terry Crews.
I love Terry Crews in that show, and the Captain. They're
And
my
the Captain.
favorites. Dance Paparazzi says most Disney heroes are ENFP. No, they're actually INFPs. This is what I mean. They keep confusing us.
Are they? I don't know.
Yes, they're INFPs, not ENFPs. Jake is an ENFP. Yes, Jake is an ENFP. He's lazy. CL, why do you think Chandler is an ENTP?
Well, as per PenCap says that Personality Database has him listed as an ESFP. They also have Gandalf listed as an INTJ. So
INFP.
before I actually figured out what Personality Database was, I thought it was a group of MBTI, possibly experts, who were taking all these suggested characters and then typing them and then throwing up, what they believe their type was. Turns out it's the community the MBTI community is doing the typing, and as I've said before, 90% of the MBTI community doesn't know how MBTI works. So you've got 90% of the people who absolutely don't know how MBTI works trying to type people. So.
Joshi Yolo says, if y'all seen Death Note, but supposedly Mello is an ENFP, have you analyzed that character?
I have. I've watched 2 episodes of Death Note, just the 2 episodes. So I don't even know who Mello is.
I watched it when I was 16, and I loved that show. I binged it all night, and I had school the next day, and did not care about the schools or tests as you do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who Mello is. That's a long time ago. I would have to watch it. Yoshi Yolo, I will totally watch it and let you know. I might forget, so the totally is maybe a lie, but I will try to watch it and let you know.
Do her best.
Yes. Amy Disguise is interesting, Ben. You would say Disney heroes are generally INFPs. Urchin believes that princess types are INFP. I would love to hear your reasoning, Ben. I mean, you just need to watch them. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. They everything they do, all the decisions, is always about them feeling good in the end. Oh my gosh! Oh, like I want to do this because it is something that I would love to do because I want to feel this way. Every single time that there's a challenge for them, it's always about how they feel about the situation. They only make decisions based on their feelings. I think Mulan was an ISTP, if I'm not mistaken. We
Mulan?
watched it the other day. Yeah, Mulan, ISTP, you would say maybe?
No.
No?
Matter of
I
fact,
thought that's what you said.
what if Mulan was an ENFP?
Well, I said that Mulan was an ENFP because I wanted to relate to Mulan because she was the only princess that I ever liked was
Like,
Mulan.
I can't say she was an ISTP because of how absolutely uncoordinated she was at the beginning. It took time for her to grow into a soldier. In the beginning, she of course didn't care about tradition. She went completely against tradition, which is a sign of introverted sensing in the last position, or in the fourth position. And she wanted to save her father, wasn't it? Her father from going to war.
Yeah.
So
Yes. So for me, Mulan as a child was the one that I related to because I could understand what she was going through, right? Like Mulan, she didn't care about herself when she was making the decision. Like everything she did was based on protecting everybody else around her. And I can relate to that. Like I don't care much about myself, but I do care about the people around me. So that's the difference with an ENFP. Like you're always going to see them put themselves in the background because they will care more about everybody else but themselves. Like to me, it would be selfish for anybody that is like, well, I because I feel like this, I'm doing this. That just sounds selfish to me in a way. I'm not gonna judge you for it. Like I understand that that's what you would want to do, but an ENFP is not going to do something because it will be good, beneficial for them. It's everybody else and then them, if that. Savannah Lambert says, does FI plus TE used together look like FE? And does FE plus TI used together look like FI? I have a
No.
theory on that. You go ahead, Urchin.
I would say that extroverted feeling looks like extroverted feeling, and introverted feeling looks like introverted feeling. Remember that we use all the functions every day. Some functions we use to a greater degree, other functions we use to a lesser degree. Introverted feeling plus extroverted thinking, as I may have described earlier. You feel like this is the right thing to do, so you get the appropriate information and execute the plan. That would be an example of how those two work in tandem to get a solution figured out. And in extroverted feeling plus introverted thinking, maybe you would be finding out what's wrong with someone and then logically coming up with a solution to fix their problem, which is what extroverted feeling would strive to do, to bring harmony back into balance, or not harmony back into balance, but to bring harmony to an imbalanced group or a social setting, or just between you and another person. You would logically want to solve their problem. And no, it does not look like introverted feeling. Introverted feeling is your own personal values, morals, beliefs, opinions, subjective portions of life. Could you elaborate on your theory, how your last three letters are, what does that say? Inborn, but E or I depends on circumstances. Yeah, so I had this theory that depending on your life circumstances, you may decide to switch from very early on. It's possible. I'm not even saying that this is true. It's a thought that I had. So let's say you take a an XNTP character, so you've got an ENTP or it could be an INTP, but let's say they grow up in a violent household where it was important that they kept everyone on their side to survive. It gave them experience in dealing with people, and then they started to rely on needing that experience, and so they grow up with this greater sense of confidence when it comes to social situations. And I wondered, theoretically, would that cause this person to have that introverted sensing pushed down into a fourth position like state? It was a thought, but it's hard to say exactly how certain situations or certain circumstances might influence those functions. Who joined us?
Cookie dough.
Cookie Dough's back. Hi, Cookie Dough.
Hi. Hello.
Can you, I would like you to give us some visuals for this in the background of your video. So get ready to put in some work, please. What D&D type do you think fits fits each 16 personality type?
Which D&D type? So you're talking about classes?
I'm assuming that's what he means.
I
And
need
can you
to-
put up a visual and and write it down on something on
I
your
can do all
computer
kinds
we
of
can.
things.
That's perfect. So let's do that. Put the type and then put the MBTIs next to it so we can see it. Make it pretty.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you. While you
gonna be
do that,
dark.
we'll continue with questions, and then Ambient Disguise will get back to your question. So Pencap says, about Chandler from Friends, I would say he has high preference for FI. Most of the time, he just tries to find a lover. He's more romantic than a TI user I've seen. Yeah, TI users are not very romantic, Pencap. That is correct. I have tried to get the romantic side out of Urchin just for my own amusement, and it's not there.
It's not there. It's dead.
I
It
think
died.
he's
I drowned
hiding
it.
He's hiding it.
Well, yes. What I mean is, like, but he doesn't show it. Like an FI user would have already shown it. He just doesn't. And,
Why don't you ask Bob?
Yeah, no, and Bob too. I have tried with Bob too. Like I have tried with Bob and Urchin. So Bob and Urchin are like my little guinea pigs in a way.
Mm.
And I love spending time with them because we just get along pretty well, in my opinion. And they're just fun to me. And I am truly trying to figure them out because they don't react to things like a normal human. Most of the times, what they do is they'll just go with an extroverted feeling response to absolutely everything. So it is very hard to actually get to know either of them because of that. So it's pretty amazing. Anyway, I'm very excited for answering Emmett Disguise question. And are you ready, Urchin, or do we do something else?
I was gonna talk about the D&D classes, and
Okay, let's go.
so we've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we've only got 13 classes, base classes, but we've got 16 personalities. Some of them we're gonna have to share. Let's see. A wizard, that is a bookworm kind of spellcaster. They don't like getting very physical. They would just rather study about the magic. And then, of course, it pays off once they reach higher levels so they can do the really cool stuff. But so I would say that a wizard would be an INTP. Do they have sorcerer on here? I don't. There it is. Whereas the inverse, maybe necessarily of that, would be a more natural, do it their own way kind of spellcaster, which is the sorcerer. And so I would say that the ENTP would be more sorcerer, whereas an INTP would be more of a wizard. Fighters, I would say I would probably go with an ISTP. It's pretty standard there. Clerics, it seems like a very ISFJ kind of thing. Rogues, rogues. I knew some ESTPs that enjoy playing rogues a lot. That seems to fit how they like to do things, so we could go with that. Druids, I would say, are INFPs. The very tree-hugging, love nature kind of spellcaster. So I would go with INFPs being druids. As for monks, they're all about discipline and doing the same mantras over and over again. Lots of
Arjun,
training. Yes.
1 second. You need to write it down, like make it so we can see it. This is an interactive class. We want to
Is
see.
that what's happening right now?
Yes,
I'm not
we want to
typing anything
see.
down.
Please, we can't just.
I,
This is hard.
I, I, I would, but see, one hand is doing this, and then the other hand
Uh-huh.
has a vape in it, so I can't really type.
Okay, I don't even know where we are now. I don't even know who you gave each type at this point.
Wizard INTP, Fighter ISTP, Cleric ISFJ, Rogue ESTP, Druid INFP, Monk ISTJ, Paladin.
I can't write that fast. 1 second. I'm a wizard INTP for the people in the chat. I'll write it down for them since you won't. And then we have
Fighter.
wizard INTP, and then we have the rogue. Wait, what?
I said wizard INTP, Fighter
Okay.
ISTP, Cleric ISFJ, maybe also ESFJ, just because they have to share a couple of them. So Cleric ISFJ, ESFJ,
Okay,
Rogue.
okay.
Rogue ESTP, Druid.
Rogue. Okay. Druid.
INFP.
That makes sense.
Monk
Druid.
ISTJ.
Mm-hmm.
Paladin. I'm gonna go with ENFP. Yeah. Warlock deals with forming deals with demons and whatnot. So I'm gonna go with ENFJ for Warlock. Barbarian would have fit.
Why? Did you explain Paladin? Why ENFP?
They fight for good. They rescue people. They want to save people, and they take action.
Okay.
No quest is too big or too small for the Paladin.
Barbarian would have worked for ISTP as well.
Okay.
I could see Ranger maybe being more INFJ, solo stuff, harmony with nature kind of a thing. Sorcerer, ENTP, Artificer, ESTJ. And unfortunately for bards, I could also see INFPs being bards, but instead we're going to go with ESFP for bard. I'd also would have worked for barbarian too.
Okay, Artificer, ENTJ?
I said Artificer, I figured ESTJ.
ESTJ, okay, and Bard, ESTP.
Bard, I would just go with ESFP for Bard.
ESFP.
And there's a few other personalities that we have to do. We have to share them with. And ENTJ could also go with Artificer. I think that would work.
Okay.
INFJ I gave to Ranger.
I don't know if I'm missing any personalities.
We have INTPs, ENFPs, and I. Did you do INTJ? No, you didn't.
I did not do INTJ. INTJ has to share with Artificer as well.
Okay. Wow.
ISFPs, I would also put as either probably Druid. Would probably be Druid.
So did we get all the SI types? ISFJ, ISCJ, ESCJ?
All right, I'm already bored of the subject. We're moving on to another one.
I know. ESFJ, ESFJ. Oh, okay, we got it. Okay. See, guys, this is why it's hard for me to get him to do anything. He just gets bored easily. Try managing this, man. Just try it. I don't recommend. Let's see.
I'm a druid.
Absolutely. You're the sweetest druid I know.
Thank you.
All right. Also, this is random,
Okay.
but then earlier when I asked the question about INTP versus ENTP, Urchin answered it, but then you clarified what I actually was thinking. Oh, okay, that wasn't a question. You got praise,
Wait,
though.
you're skipping. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're skipping questions. I told Savannah I was going back to hers. So Savannah asked, how emotional are thinking types?
Oh, emotional or thinking types? Not very, as one would imagine.
It depends on the kinds of emotions that we're talking about. If you're talking about the highs and lows, um, I have known ISTJs and INTJs to get angry pretty easily. I have seen that. Um, uh, when it comes to ESTJs or ENTJs, obviously they keep their feelings pretty suppressed and they pop out typically much later in life. INTPs try to keep everything calm even when bad things are happening. They don't know how to react emotionally speaking, and so they just try to placate, keep their mouth shut, do their best in that particular arena. I've known an INTP for 20 years and he just likes to giggle. Like that's as far as when it comes to emotions. He might get super excited about some idea that he had, but outside of that, no, none of that. If I get emotional for whatever reason all throughout the course of my life, yeah, I do it alone. You sit in a room, uh, you know, squirt out some tears, and then hope nobody saw it or heard it. So I would say that, generally speaking, the only in quote thinking types that really I've seen get in quote emotional are really INTJs and ISTJs. Those are the only ones really. And they're not emotional people, by the way. I just am saying in terms of being emotional, those are realistically the only two that I've personally got to see be more emotional than normal when it comes to the in quote thinking types.
And just to clarify, because sleepy always being sleepy. Emperor Master, yes, typings for actual professional typists or typings or YouTubers that do typings are typically above 100, like Cookie Dough said. So it's either 150 per 15 minutes of typing. So that's how much it costs. And Urchin is only $20 for however long it takes to type. It can be an hour or two. Typically, it's around an hour. And then of course we have people that have Discord and then they just randomly do typings, but they're not typists. So we don't ask for money. I am included in one of those. I just type people because I'm learning, so it makes it fun for me. And I'm not gonna ask them because I don't have the experience. So no, it is normal for someone that's a YouTuber and does typings to charge. Urchin is the cheapest one by far because it's over 100, like Cookie Dough said.
Yeah, and I'm not an ESTJ trying to parade myself around as an ENTP. So
yeah, that is also true. Let's see. What else do we have? Thank you so much, YOLO. Then we have Stephen Campbell said, classic ENTP can't be bothered. Yes, Stephen, that's exactly what I have to deal with every day. It's fun,
I make
though.
it
Keeps
fun.
life interesting. Yes, that is true. And I know you said that thinker types are not very emotional, which you are correct, and everything you said was accurate. But my gosh, guys, if you ever find an ISTP that's depressed, you can just type him as an ESFP because there's really no difference there.
ISTPs, when they're not in a good place, can be a little bit on the emotional side about things. Yes, that does happen.
So Yoshi Yellow said ISTP versus INTP. How to tell the difference?
Yes, an ISTP is far more confident in their dealings with the real world. They can go out and do things solo, doesn't really bother them. They get things done. They wanna see results. They want those tangible results that come to them from that desire for, or that preference for extroverted sensing. They obviously don't spend as much time abstracting. They want to get stuff done. They want to make sure they've got money. They do their dishes. They do their laundry. They'll take showers regularly. They do all the normal human things. Although they might still be awkward in casual conversation, especially when they're younger, they have more opportunities to get better at it because they're always dealing with the real world and not worrying about the possibilities. INTP, on the other hand, is a generally you can often find them hermiting in their rooms, oftentimes on a computer, or burying their nose in some manner of book, usually nonfiction books. They're still very awkward around people. They don't like to deal with people because people are puzzles, people are problems that they don't want to spend a lot of time on, so they end up coming off as awkward, and in situations where they're more comfortable, they can come off as very Aspergery. So they INTPs live in a world of theory. They theorize what the real world is like and then try to base their understandings of it off of that. So some pretty noticeable differences between the two.
Kieran UK would like you to type Borderlands, but I don't know. Do you know? Have you played Borderlands?
Borderlands, I only really played the first one many years ago, so I couldn't help you on that one, I'm afraid.
And then Poison Ivy says Powerpuff Girls typing. Now, Powerpuff Girl, guys, was like my favorite show.
Yeah,
when I
you're
was
better
12
off
years
asking
old.
Ven about Powerpuff Girls typing.
It gives me a chance to rewatch them again. I saw them like 2 years ago, so I'm gonna have to go back. And Poison Ivy next stream, come back to me. I will do my best. Like, okay, I have Powerpuff Girls to watch with the urchin and Death Note.
Powerpuff Girls and Death Note, great.
Yes. What else do we have? Judith says, having been an INFP who had everything working for them when early 20s, but a completely mess in early 30s, have you personally ever seen as INFP when they're ever seen an INFP where they are doing extremely well?
Yeah,
also,
I've
thank you
seen.
for doing the class typing.
You're very welcome, Druid. I have seen an INFP do well. I don't know them personally, but Johnny Depp, you may have heard of Johnny Depp. He's seemingly doing extremely well in his life. I also suspected that Frank James was possibly an INFP. He seems to be doing well. Once again, I don't know many INFPs personally. Not that many, or keep in contact with them all that often. I've got Druid talks to me regularly. Kiwi, Cookie Dough. I think that's it. I don't.
Savannah Lambert, would the amount of being emotional change for the thinking types if they were a girl versus a boy? Not that I've seen.
Not that I've seen, no. If you have a preference for these specific functions, you're going to behave in a very specific manner, regardless of male or female. Now, the results may end up being different. So, like an ISTP who wants to be romantically involved with someone, the outcome's going to be a lot different than an ISTP who wants to be romantically involved with someone. There's some big differences there in terms of success in certain aspects, but how they think about things are the same.
That's right. And guys, don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe to Urchin's channel.
It has been 30 minutes.
That's been
Remember
way
to
more than
like and
3 hours.
subscribe and join the Discord, and you can ask me even more questions as they arise.
Correct. Poison Ivy, I love Bubbles. Oh, I liked Bubbles too. Now, everybody growing up always told me I was a buttercup because I had my HBIC phase going on as always. And then but PenCap says ESTJ Blossom, ISFP Bubbles, ISTP Buttercup are my guesses. But we'll see, PenCap. I will let you know once I'm watching it and we can discuss it because it will be fun. And Mahi's going to bed.
Well, good night, Mahi. It was nice having you here.
Yeah, it is very late for you, so thank you so much for being here. It's like 3 a.m. for her, I believe.
Oh, goodness.
Do you guys have any more questions? What did you guys think of the new series, Type Talks of the ENTPs? Do you guys want to see more videos like that of different interviews with different types?
As long as my computer doesn't explode making the interviews, then yeah, I think it's a great idea. When I was exporting the whole video, I just walked away from my machine because I assumed it was going to explode. Just making the
Yes.
27 minutes worth, and I just walked away. I was like, nope, computer's going to die right here. Here's how it happens.
And that is true. The tomboy Powerpuff Girls. You know what? We're gonna type them all, guys. I'm gonna come back with the Powerpuff Girls. May not be this week because I'm gonna watch all 6 seasons of it. And
There
then
was
we can
6
come to-
seasons of Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah, they were actually gonna make a live show and they just canceled it. I was so sad about it.
Awful.
Yes. Urchin, do you want to tell them about your next video coming up?
Ven tells me my next video is a relationship video.
Oh, Ben tells you.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, the next video is about ENTP and INFJ relationships. How they work, how they function. You know, we're gonna try to see first how you're gonna get the INFJ.
Oh, is that
And then
how it's starting?
Yes, and then we're gonna go over the dynamics of the relationship, and how it would function.
Well, there you go. Apparently, that's what it's going to be about.
That's right. CL asks, are there subtypes of each MBTI type?
No. Don't even start with that Eric Thor shit. As a matter of fact, I got to hand it to Eric Thor, though. He is the reason I started that I made a YouTube channel in the first place. My blood pressure was spiking so much from listening to what he was saying about MBTI. I had to make a YouTube channel. I'm a green INFJ? Yeah, I can't do that. Are there some personality types you weren't expecting to get along as well as they do when you first started typing? No, I I already had a fair grasp of how personality types mesh with me, given the context of the situation. So nothing too eye-opening there. INTJ versus INTP, in what exactly? Like, which one's going to graduate college first? It'll probably be the INTJ. Which type do y'all think Chandler from Friends is? Then, what type is Chandler from Friends? Ven, are you there?
Okay.
Oh.
Huh?
I said, what type is Chandler from Friends?
Well, we don't know. PenCap is not asking us. He's asking the chat. Because
Oh,
remember we said, but yeah.
okay.
Now do you guys want to torture Urchin a little bit more today? Because we can totally do that.
Can we?
Yes. Urchin, bring out paint.
What?
Bring out paint. The program.
MS Paint.
Yeah, the program paint, where you can paint things. So let's Tertia, you gave me an idea. Okay. Jordan says that yes, we can torture Urchin, and I agree with you. Amber Disguise, we're torturing Urchin. Urchin, can you please give a color to each MBTI type?
Why would I need paint for that?
Because we want to see it. It's a class. It's visual is very important. So make a list, like make a text, and then put like INTP, NTP, all that, and then give them different nice colors.
Give them nice colors.
He is tortured, just so you guys know. We will enjoy this.
Let's go with the other ones.
So while you do that, Urchin, do you think each type can relate more to their functions, or another person's functions or type, if they're in the first and fourth or second and third? And I'm gonna explain. For example, you as an ENTP,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that you relate more or just get along better with an ESTP or an ENFP?
I get along with both.
Yes, but which one do you kind of prefer? Like,
I
because
don't
you
really
share first
prefer
and fourth.
either. I wouldn't say I prefer either one. Contextually speaking, if I'm hanging out with either one or the other, I enjoy the time. So if I'm hanging out with my brother, the ENFP brother, awesome time. If I'm hanging out with my cousin, ESTP, awesome time. So
Yeah.
I think, however, if I'm going to have a super long conversation that stretches on into the wee hours of the morning, more often than not, an ENFP will accommodate. ESTP usually has stuff to do. So
Right.
I can have abstract conversation with the ENFP, but when we're talking about logical things that might be more involved with the real world, then ESTP I have conversations with, logically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's great. Now, do you think it would work the same for each type? Like, for example, do you think it would be easy for types to get along when they share the first and fourth or the second and third? Do you think like those might be types that you can easily get along with? What do you think about that?
So we're talking about
Like,
ENFPs
for
and
example,
ENTPs, and
no, just in general. Like,
I'm trying to understand the question a little better here. So you're saying I get along with one better than the other?
No. So, for example, for the types, right? You get along with both the ENFP and ESTP, and they accommodate different functions for you.
Yes.
Now, for example, with other types, let's say you as an ENTP share the NE and the SI with the ENFP, and with the ESTP, you share the TI and the FE. So
Mhm.
would you say for other types when they're looking for someone that they might be able to get along with. I know that you have common interests. You think it would work the same for other types, but
I
if it's the
think
first,
you'll
Mhm.
have more in common going with the perceptions rather than the thinking function or the decision-making functions. So the perceiving functions versus the decision-making, I think you'll have more in common with the perceiving than the perceiving functions.
Okay, it's good to know. Can you move the paint a little bit to the right so we don't? It's not covered by you by your
I can
beautiful
just,
face, handsome face.
how about that? I moved it up. I moved my camera up to the top right.
That's perfect. See, I gave you a compliment today. I'm being very nice.
So nice.
Okay, so now give us a color for each type, please. And if you guys disagree with him, please bombard the comment section and tell him why you disagree with him.
Oops. Undo, please.
Use shapes like a nice circle. I mean, heart to give us each color.
Can I do a? No, I was hoping that there was a heart. There it is. See, I'm gonna do gray, and then the next one is some kind of a dark red color. ENFJ. Wait, this one was supposed to be gray. It was not. I haven't used paint in a while.
So Handcap disagrees with ESTJ. He says he always imagined ESTJs as a vibrant blue. What do you think about that?
As a vibrant blue, I don't think about it at all. So I hope that answers your question. Assigning colors to types. We got a brighter red here. That reminds me of ISFPs. It's this lovey-dovey heart, bright red. Oh goodness.
Hello, None Your Business. Welcome to the stream. We're all having fun here, torturing Urchin. We are now forcing Urchin to give a color to each type.
Orange. Remember I think my brother said his favorite color was orange. Go with that.
For what?
INTJ.
Okay, that works.
Does it work for you?
Say, no,
Is that...
Not for an ENFP, no.
Yellow. It's a very loud color. Very in your face. So we're gonna go ESFP. We got green here. Green reminds me of an ENFP.
What? No, that's an INFP.
No, it's already been done.
No.
It's too late now.
No. Urchin, I disagree.
I disagree. Well, put it in the comments section where that belongs. Your disagreements.
No. That's an INFP. Don't.
A light, I don't know what color this necessarily. Some kind of lighter blue color.
Well, tell us why you think these colors. Like, you need
I don't think these colors. I don't think these colors. So I'm gonna go with ISFJ for this light blue color.
No, that's an ENFP. See, he's butchering this, guys. Really butchering this. ENFPs are blue.
Just butchering it. Dark blue reminds me of INFPs because they're sad a lot. So I'm gonna put that down there. Tell me there's more questions happening in the comment section so I can stop doing this.
We're all enjoying this. We're arguing about the colors.
Great. Purple reminds me of INFJ.
Purple.
Guys, put it in the comment section if you disagree. I honestly already disagree with a lot of his.
Kind of a slightly lighter gray. I'm gonna give to ENTJ. Bam. For no
See?
particular reason other than that they're generally emotionless. So gray. Brown colors. This kind of a brown
ENTP,
color.
I would go because it's ugly, so I would go with the
I'm gonna go with ISTP for brown.
You know he's gonna give ENTP magenta, most likely. He's cheating.
He's cheating. Pink, we're gonna give to ESFJs. They're into that for sure.
Yeah, we think that the INFJ, you giving them purple, that's odd. I agree with Pencap. Why did you give INFJ purple?
Because I felt like it. So...
God, do you see, guys? Look at his eyes. His soul is leaving his body right now. He does not like what he's doing. Yeah, Druid says ENTJ should be blood red. You are very, very bad at this, you know?
INTP gets another shade of blue. It's out of spite at this point. ENTP is going to get whatever this last color is.
Purple is the color of royalty. That's why an ENFP should be purple. He gave us green out of all the colors.
There we go. I have color coded the 16 personality types. You're welcome. I've done my favor to the community.
I still think, can you please switch the ENFP around? I don't think you get it with the ENFPs.
No.
What give us greens? No? Okay. Okay, guys, enough of torturing Urchin. What other MBTI questions do you guys have? CL thinks INFJ purple makes sense because they're spiritual. I don't.
Thank you, CL. I'm glad that
No.
somebody can see reason here.
Oh, what? I haven't met an INFJ that was spiritual. So I don't know about that one.
I'm gonna give ENFP's diarrhea yellow.
No. I'm okay with green. I'm okay with green. I'm okay with green. I'm not pushing it. Okay. Yoshi Yolo, thank you so much. Urchin is probably gonna appreciate this. Yoshi Yolo's asking random, but can an ISTP be absent-minded and focus on what's in their head like an INTP?
Yeah, they can do that. That it's not going to happen all that often, but they can do that if they think they're on the right track of discovering the cracking their own limits and then pushing forward. Yeah, they can do that. It's something that can happen. Might involve alcohol.
Perfect.
This man doesn't understand color theory. No, correct. I don't.
You don't. So my thing, guys, is colors. I love colors. And Urchin just doesn't get it. But it's okay. You know,
Just
at least
doesn't get it. Where's Bob? I need someone to fight back here. I need
she's in the chat already. She joined the chat, so
when?
Bob is around. Well, while you were doing all this, I was talking to her. You know, she's in the chat. So let me see if I have another MBTI question.
Can I get rid of this now? Is that...
Send it to me. I want to post it in the Discord. Bob says she's
Dumbass here. MBTI colors. There, I have saved it.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Bob, we have Urchin typing different things. Understandably, you know, he's not very happy, but hey, he's playing along, so that's great. Okay, Urchin, MBTI question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how would each MBTI type decorate their home if they would even bother? So which ones would actually care about those things?
ESFJs would care. ISFJ would care. ISFPs absolutely care. ESFPs, it's a take it or leave it kind of thing.
I agree, Bob. I love to see growth from Merchant too.
I've seen ISTJs decorate their homes. ESTJs usually rely on their partner to decorate the home for them. I'm sure they have a say in it, one way or another. ESTPs, maybe if they're particularly proud of the things that they've painted or created, they may decide to post them up somewhere. But in terms of like decoration, like picking out color schemes and whatnot, that is specific to a lot of introverted sensing and extroverted sensing characters.
Okay, so Joshi YOLO says, which MBTI types are by default absent-minded who daydream a lot?
So I have seen this behavior in, especially when young, ESTPs, ESFPs, ISTPs, ISFPs. I've seen that behavior a lot, and then of course your stereotypical ones, ENTP, ENFP, INTP, INFP. The ones that don't daydream as much, and mind you, we're talking about like kids, right? Like 10 years old. The ones that don't do it as much, because obviously every kid's going to daydream to some degree. The ones that so we're looking at introverted, intuitive types typically don't want to spend as much time daydreaming, and then they certainly try to grow out of that as they get older. They're instead of daydreaming, go get it done. So you have the thought about what you want to do, what you want to be, go do it, start it right now. Don't waste any time, kind of thing. And then introverted sensors, they obviously, when it comes to daydreaming, that's not something that they preference doing. The closest I'd seen to consistent daydreaming in a preferenced introverted sensor was a young, an ISTJ boy, and he didn't daydream about things. He would go back into his memories to laugh about stuff that he saw on YouTube. And that was the most daydreaming that he did.
Yes, I agree. Ambient disguise. Art is where we put our depressive and aggressive feelings as FINE and EFI users. I have a book that I wrote when I'm writing happy thoughts, right? I have a different book that I'm writing where I'm putting like very aggressive stuff that nobody wants to read, or I couldn't post because it's just so bad.
Must be 18 years or older to read that book.
Yeah, it's very violent, let's just say. So I get it. Now Bob has a great question. She said, how do you convince a high SI user to think of other possibilities or try something new? Think outside the box, consider other perspectives, etc.
So high preference. So we're going to say high preference is first or second position introverted sensing. So that's 4 personality types: ISFJ, ESFJ, ISTJ, and ESTJ. ISFJs need to have there has to be a positive results with whatever these new ideas are. There has to be results, and even if they do get to see the results and they're a part of it, they're not going to try and bother with it. They're not going to want to deal with it. Like, you keep doing what you're doing. If it's working for us, then great, I'll do that. They're really not going to be interested until they are much older, that they will start to see things from a different perspective, and that maybe doing things the tried and true way may not always be the best way. It's the most comfortable way, most certainly. It's the path already laid down, but trying to break them from that, I have tried for years to try and convert them into a different way of thinking. It does not. it doesn't happen very quickly or easily. It usually, I would think that in the ISFJs that I met that were older, they started kind of sort of wanting to vaguely branch out into these more abstract topics when they got to their mid to late 30s. Then they might start giving it a little bit more attention, but still, no. Age is usually the best way to get them to see things from different perspectives. ESTJs and ESFJs, on the other hand, they can start branching out into the abstract stuff a little bit earlier. But as you probably had the experience, trying to convince an ESTJ that the conclusions they come to were wrong or incongruent with reality, that they don't like that at all. That is, they will get mean over that for sure. ESFJs, I have tried to talk with them about more abstract topics, the ones that were in between the ages of like 18 and let's say 30. They enjoy it for a time, especially if they're attracted to you. Then they'll sit through it and try to and talk, have the conversation back and forth. But at some point, they will tell you, "I don't want to talk about that anymore." So they still, even an ESFJ still trusts their own understandings of a situation to that of an abstract possibility. And then as for ISTJs, it's similar to the ISFJs. The ISTJs are, however, a little bit more grounded in what they believe and why. They rely on extroverted thinking. So if it's working for everybody, then it should be working for me. And I don't really have the time or want to really be being as so inefficient and branching off to do those other things. And once again, time is the best way to convince someone to have more of a preference for possibilities when dealing with an introverted sensing preference person. But I think overall, the best way to convince them is to somehow convince policy. So if you're talking about something like a business situation, convince people above them to change the policy, and then they'll decide to believe it because everyone else is believing it.
Amber Disguise says, as I get older, I get more emotional when I am angry, but nothing can be done about it. Otherwise, dark is just the norm and friendly in the morally correct.
And friendly is the morally correct. It's oftentimes you get more flies with honey than vinegar. And so typically being friendly, polite, being pleasant typically yields more benefits to being harsh, blunt, and cold. So I approve of you getting older and being more friendly. If Cookie Dough were here, she could tell us that was a colloquialism.
Oh, she says that word so cute. I the best thing ever. Yeah, I have a soft spot in my cold black heart for Cookie Dough. Like it's a very, very warm spot in there. I would say to it that when I was younger, I was more of I was also angry a lot. I think that came from the FI because I did not understand how people were so selfish. Like that was my main thing. Why is everybody so selfish? I could not understand why someone would do something and not think about someone else before it. Which is why, if you probably have noticed this since you've been in the Discord, when somebody does something that I believe harms someone that I care about, I'll immediately be on it. And that's what to me, it's like, well, how didn't you think that you saying this could affect, someone's reputation? So that's something that I think does happen for us. And I think it's because we just care a lot about it. So since we care so much, we expect others to care. But it's obviously they won't understand that. and as you get older, you start to understand that other people have other priorities. So I understand what you mean. Immortal Emperor Master says, methods to get my ISFJ sister interested in trying new things. She is young, right? She's like 15, maybe less.
That's at that age, they have other things to concern themselves with besides wasting time on the abstract.
Bob says those with FE manipulate others, but that usually means having an understanding of people and what they want to hear or what influences them. How is that different from any and imagining perspectives?
So, it's well, extroverted intuition is about the abstract, which of course, understandably, includes the perspectives of other people. So, if we're wondering, oh, we're talking about the extroverted feeling. The extroverted feeling is harmony in a group setting, and so with that, you can learn to flex your extroverted intuition to do that. However, if you have been around like 16-year-old ESFJs and you're going to high school or whatever, they don't necessarily care about your particular perspective or what you would like to see happen within a group setting. They care that you're following the rest of the group. And so they want to make sure that that's happening. And if you're not going to follow along with it, especially the young ESFJs where that extroverted intuition is pretty low at the time in terms of energy spent, they axe people from the group. So it's so extroverted feeling might be more, it concerns itself with what do I need to do to make sure that this group that I'm trying to keep together stays together, and they don't necessarily care about the perspectives of others, especially when young. Extroverted intuition is imagining a great number of things in the abstract. One of, as I said, one of which is the perspectives of other people. So you can wonder about their perspective, but what is it that you're doing with that information? In the case of ENFPs, they typically, when young, they want to go with their gut, their instinct, maybe project a little bit as to what this person might be feeling, and then test it out to see if it works. Whereas an ENTP, on the other hand, wants to use extroverted intuition and extroverted feeling to categorize, to logically explain this person's motivations, the whys, the wants, the needs, based on whatever evidence that they come across, which takes time.
Pancap says, I don't like to say this, but I think my FI is different than other FI DOMs I've seen. Actually, you remind me a lot of my ex and his best friend. You guys would probably get along pretty well.
But in order to imagine what you need to do to keep the group together and in your favor, you have to understand people, which requires imagining, oh, well, you don't necessarily need to have a requirement for understanding people. You can throw darts at a dartboard and eventually get a bullseye. A lot of trial and error, a lot of following what your family did, what the people around you do, what other groups are also interested in, and what they should be doing. You can follow introverted sensing on that, like in the case of the ESFJ. They know how you should be acting and what you should be interested in. That does not necessarily require a preference for perspectives. It certainly helps, and as I said, most people use all the functions every day, and you can use that, and of course you'd be better off using a combination of extroverted intuition and extroverted feeling, but it's not necessary. And I'm not saying that ESFJs are gods of keeping groups together either. They make mistakes. They follow a routine. They follow the path laid before them to make sure that that group stays together to the best of their ability. And if their programming doesn't cover a specific situation, bad things happen. That is what they try to do. Absolutely. Trial and error.
Why tower and not stack?
Because everyone else says stack. So I get tired of hearing it.
Yeah,
I was talking to a German woman about MBTI many, like almost a year ago.
and I kept complaining. I would like to use another word besides stack. I don't want to keep using it because everyone else is using it, and I don't like the sound of it anymore. So I'm gonna pick a new word. I just need to figure it out. And then she recommended tower, and I was like, perfect. We're gonna go with tower.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. Well, I don't like stack, so
Well, I'll find you another word. Deal?
thanks. You can find me another
Okay.
word. Pillar, spire.
Function pillar. I had to think about it. I said I'm gonna find it, not you.
Don't you worry about it. I'll figure it out for you. Great.
Yeah.
A function
Um,
bridge.
You know what? I don't mind function, but it just function tower doesn't match. Like
No, it could be
it
a
doesn't.
function bridge. We'd have like multiple bridges, right? So you'd have
Mhm.
the feelings bridge, the thinking bridge, the intuitive bridge, and the sensing bridge, and then where you
Yes,
might stand on that.
yes. I really like that because it's kind of a play on the axis, but with the bridge, and it could be a way for Urchin, to describe those things. I like that, pen cap. We might use that. We will. I am giving you credits right now for that, but not the copyrights.
Not the copyrights.
Bob
Function
says,
bridge,
"What about?"
TM.
Yes. Bob says, "What about ENFJs then? It's also trial and error, but they don't have the SI to remember what works as well."
So what I have found that when an ENFJ is trying to pull someone into their close social circle, they study the target. They'll take time out. They'll study it because, and mind you, they have to believe that you are worth bringing into that, this close inner group. Otherwise, they'll just rely on extroverted feeling and extroverted sensing. So typically, that means be polite, be pleasant, look good, be trendy, be fashionable looking, be eye catching. Use that physical charisma to get people to do whatever you want, and then you can say whatever. It's kind of, when guys are surrounded by a pretty girl, that pretty girl can say some of the dumbest things known to man, and oftentimes they'll just kind of giggle along with her and say, oh yeah, totally true, here's money. Like, it's kind of a thing. So they have their own ways of keeping specific people in there, but in the case of the ENFJ, if they want you specifically, they will figure you out real quick.
So CL asks if INFJs are still the rarest type.
It is. I don't know for certain. I would have to literally interview each and every person in just my country, in the United States, just to find that out for certain. Its frequency should be on the more rare side, given that introverted intuition as a strong preference is automatically uncommon. Most people do not lead their life with it. They don't focus that hard on it. Most people want to just kind of live life, enjoy it as it comes around. For introverted intuitives, the enjoyment they get out of life is on personal success based on whatever it is that they believe makes them successful. So it's automatically rare. I would say that in general, introverted intuition is going to be the more uncommon of them. You're not going to see a whole lot of them for two reasons. One, not only are they as infrequent, just naturally out in the wild, they're also going to oftentimes be in places where you're not. So they're going to be they're working their way up. They're busy people. They're going to be spending a lot of time studying or going to school, working 1-2 jobs while going to school. And then once they get done with that, they try to move up in position in whatever field of work they chose to do. And so unless you are moving right up alongside them, the odds of you actually catching them out in the wild is slim. Very, very slim. Um, let's see, where are we at?
Next one. Let's see. Function, junction, or conjunction, whatever confuses people the most. I've never heard that, never Bella, and
Function
I would.
junction. It's catchy though. I've never heard of the function junction though.
Hmm. So, ambient disguise says, "You won't believe, Urchin, but I was exceptional at some sports. Would that be making up for SE by using FI for motivation and gut feeling? NE for pattern recognition and SI for remembering technique. NE is not pattern recognition, according to Mr. Urchin."
Yeah, I don't associate pattern recognition with extroverted intuition. Uh, that's not what I've seen when studying MBTI. Now, as
Uh,
for you being good at some sports, I don't know what you mean by good exactly. Uh, I mean, if you were in fact taking home a bunch of awards, prizes, you got your picture up in like high school, the high school trophy case somewhere, you were MVP, then I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll believe that you were good at sports. But until I see those things, I don't know what you mean by exceptionally good. I do not know. Um, but let's say that you were it. Let's say that you were exceptionally good. Let's say there is a trophy somewhere at your high school or elementary school or wherever, depending on the sport. So it would suggest that as an INFP, you had a strong love for this, or it made you feel really good to do well at a particular sport. And it's physical activity. Physical activities can be trained for. You can take the most uh, untrained, the most physically averse personality type, and you tell them that they need to be training and get good at this. I don't see why they can't be good at it. Unlike the mind, the body can be physically built up. You can do the workouts, you can do the runs, you can do whatever it takes to be there. You can even train to be better coordinated. Now, is that going to be something that you have a strong preference for? Like you could either be doing sports or you could be, I don't know, writing sad poetry. You'd probably rather write the poetry, but you can still do other things. I have found that uh, introverted thinking was pattern recognition. It requires so in terms of the colloquially termed pattern recognition, it's knowing what's going to happen next. You have to logically figure out A to B to C to D and so on and so forth to find what comes next in the pattern. That is the use of introverted thinking. You're thinking about, is this congruent with the pattern? Is that's what it is. So I don't extroverted intuition by itself. It can come up with patterns. Absolutely. I think that you can come up with a bunch of possibilities, most certainly, but recognizing a pattern in it requires logical reasoning, and that's what introverted thinking does.
Destabilized Orbit asks, "What MBTI related content do you have planned for future videos?"
Relationship videos. That's the only thing that I've got in the pipeline. In just one moment.
Did you guys listen to that guy when he said,
I'm back. I was receiving news about my grandfather, and apparently he's
looking a great deal better. He was down a few pints of blood, but it seems that he's expected to make a recovery. So.
Yes, Pancake, I didn't finish it because I didn't want to be talking over Urchin. So, and now I don't remember what I was saying, so I apologize.
This
So
is a
if you remember,
hamburger
let me know.
from somewhere.
Let's send a bunch of hearts to Urchin. Yay, his grandpa's recovering.
Yeah.
So yes, guys, if you guys have any suggestions of what videos you want to be seen more often, and what shows or characters or anything like that you guys want to see typed, then let us know. You can always put it in the Discord in the video suggestion section. We always look at those. If you find anything funny on Reddit or Twitter, TikTok, anywhere, just also post it on the video suggestions. And Urchin can watch those videos and maybe comment on them. So anything that you find MBTI related that you find funny, interesting, you have questions on, just post it there. And he would maybe add it to a next video. So yeah.
So yes, in the future, some relationship related videos. I was also thinking of taking another trip back to Reddit and see what other dumb things people are posting on there. Maybe go back to the Facebook groups. I was also thinking about watching some more MBTI related content, whether they be shorts or TikToks or full length videos, and then talking about what's wrong in those, because there's a great deal out there.
So Kieran UK says, I nearly forgot to tell you which type is Eric Cartman. It's most likely ENTP, ESCP, or ENTJ.
Well, what I remember about Eric Cartman, I don't watch a lot of South Park, but he reminds me of a really badly behaved ESTJ child. That's what he reminds me of. He demands his routines every day. Like every time he has an interaction with his mother lets him more or less do whatever he wants. And he's always demanding that these routinely acquired treats or foods or whatever be brought to him. He cares a lot about monetary success, which is a hallmark of extroverted thinking. Very routine oriented. And he just knows a plethora of curse words. And then he has a quirky idea once in a while. So that is what Eric Cartman reminds me of. A very not well-behaved ESTJ child. Now, I disagree with extroverted intuition not creating or tracking patterns. Ideas in my head literally show up like interlacing hexagons and then mind map around each other. Yeah, I can also imagine such a thing. Now, whether or not those things actually make congruent sense within the pattern is a completely different story. And that's not to say that that you can't be using introverted thinking. I don't see why you can't flex introverted thinking in conjunction with your own extroverted intuition. I think that's totally plausible. Oftentimes, when we're thinking about things, we're using a great number of functions at the same time, running through them. How many? It's about that time, Ben.
Yes, it's about that time where you guys, we have 30 minutes left. So remember to like, subscribe, share the videos, share the last ENTP videos. If you guys have not watched it, please go watch Bob's interview. It was an amazing video. You know, Bob goes all ENTP on us and tells us what she likes, doesn't likes. And Bob, very entertaining. Loved interviewing Bob. There's another video with her coming up, so stay tuned for that. And join the Discord and submit an application to get typed by Urchin. A small donation of $20. Also, you can join his Patreon videos. You know, so he can. We're trying to see if the Patreon's videos can be released a little bit earlier. We're still working on that, but we'll let you guys know when that happens. That way, Patreon subscribers have access to the videos a day early.
And Cookie Dough came back.
And Cookie Dough's back. Yes.
Cookie Dough, tell us about how wonderful it is to be an INFP.
It's very wonderful.
Don't be shy, Cookie Dough.
I cannot answer questions when I'm being put on the spot. I don't know if that's an INFP thing.
It probably is. No, I think it's an everybody thing. Because even Bob is like, I can't come up with questions on the spot. So, you know, it's an everybody thing.
Well, Cookie Dough, what are your favorite colors of the rainbow?
Cookie Dough, I want you to judge what Urchin did with the colors and the types. He decided. Yes, Urchin, can you please bring up the image so she can see it? So he decided to give, yes, he decided to give, what kind of question is that? He decided to give different types, different colors, and I think he butchered it. So I just want to see your opinion on it, and you know, we're not going to change his mind because he's an old man at this point. He's very, not everything up there is functioning, but we can at least see what you think about it.
So where can I see it?
Well, Urchin is gonna
a little bit of a lag time.
Yeah, there you go. What do you think, Cookie Dough? And everybody, if you guys have questions for MBTI or anything that you would like a merchant to see right now, a video or anything, just let us know. Post it on the comment section, and he'll be happy to do so. He's a chill old man.
The very first thought I had was, I want pink, but ESTJ gray, I think that fits.
Yes, what about ENFP green? What do you think about that one? That's just outrageous, isn't it?
Why is that?
Well, because because first of all, green does not go with a lot of things. Okay, that's the first thing we need to put out here. Now, green is a color of nature. Does an ENFP leave their homes very often to go to nature? Like, what is the logic on when he
but
decides?
It's like, if I think of green, I think of trees, and if I think of NE, like extroverted intuition, it reminds me of trees as well, because it's like the branches go into a lot of different directions. So it kind of reminds me of an ENFP.
But was that his logic? Was that his
Got
logic
him.
when he? No.
I don't, I don't know.
Yep. So,
Well,
Amber
why is
Sky-
INFP blue? I
Because
like
they're sad.
Oh, that makes sense. I cried 2 times today, which is
You've cried 2 times today. See, guys, this is an INFP. They're professional criers. We have one that says she has a bachelor's degrees in crying at this point, and very, what are they called? Doctorates in crying? Cookie dough, Amber in Disguise wants to know, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 22.
17, really? In the US?
I'm 12. No, I'm kidding. I'm 22. That's like a 2 and 2 together. So I'm 4.
Yeah, this is perfect. Now, Urchin,
Mm.
tell us about. Wait 1 second. I had a question and then it just left my beautiful head. Why should people join your Discord?
You should join my Discord because you can ask me questions when they arise. Not everyone can think of all the great, wonderful MBTI questions, on a Saturday afternoon between 2 and 6. So you most likely will have more questions. I will be there on the Discord to answer them. Also, we do movie Mondays. Most of them are adult themed. So we watched Deadpool last week.
Yes. Last month was Disney themed. This month is Christmas themed, guys. So if you guys have any ideas, post it on the film channel. Because remember, we added hobbies to the Discord, Urchin. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're trying to do. Urchin is the leader of the gaming hobby. So he is supposed to maintain that hobby channel live. So if you guys play games, he'll post your pictures there. Tell us which games you're playing. Invite other people to play your games with you. And again, Urchin is going to be the leader of that one. So he's going to be managing the game one, making sure it stays alive. If you guys want to be the leader of the specific hobby that we have in the Discord channel, just DM me and let me know, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you.
Like magic.
Can
Like
you guess what I'm drinking?
What?
Can you guess what I'm drinking?
Strawberry tea.
Yes.
Don't spill it in your bed this time.
Oh no.
Movie Mondays is at Sunday at 4 a.m. for you. Yes. That is pretty late.
That is pretty late. Unfortunately, I cannot accommodate everyone on those activities.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could, I would stream videos on the streaming day, but copyright infringement, etc. So
Yeah, that's why we tried to do this live streams earlier, so most people can join. Oh, it's 4 a.m. for you right now. Oh, okay.
So when do we do movie Mondays? Oh, we do them at
We do them
around 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So it would
Your
be for
time.
5 a.m.
Yeah. So it'd be about there.
So Cookie Dough, Destabilized Orbit asks, are INFP lazy when it comes to chores?
Yes, but I have my ways of getting it done.
No.
What are those ways?
Oh, well, I.
Do you guys see where she has the warmest spot in my heart is for Cookie Dough? She is the most pure, sweetest person I've ever met.
Oh, Ben. Love you, Ben.
I love you too.
Sometimes I pretend to be Cinderella, so I think that helps.
Okay, I mean,
Um,
that tracks. I buy that.
I mm, I usually have to imagine something in my head, and that helps. I can also do it without imagining something, but uh, I don't like doing it that way. I enjoy seeing people happy um when I clean. If I would live by myself, I don't think I would bother as much. But
Hmm.
um yeah, I'm done.
Absolute wife material right here.
Cookie Dough, Pencap's asking. Well, first of all, Cookie Dough, Ambient Disguise says that you are a legit innocent INFP, and she's so glad the world hasn't ruined you, and to not let evil in, to stay pure, because the world needs INFP with lights to stay lit, which is a beautiful message. Thank you, Ambient Disguise. And now we have. Oh wow, Pencap, I mean, Disguise, you threw her in a fit of giggles. Pencap says, Cookie Dough, who's your favorite fictional character?
Um the first thing that comes to mind, I don't really watch a lot of, is fiction like cartoons?
Oftentimes, yes.
I don't really watch a lot of cartoons, but as a child I would watch Heidi, and I remember
Fiction means
um
made up stories, not true. Like Cinderella, for example.
mm, can it also be from a book?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, then you like Anne of Green Gables.
Oh my gosh, I've heard that book. That's my favorite book as a child. I used to love that book. I read it all the
Really?
time.
It's
So we
also
have a
my
favorite
favorite.
book. Huh?
It's also my favorite book.
Yeah. See, Cookie, we share a lot of favorites in books at this point.
Yeah.
How come INFPs are so hated on the MBTI community? Oh, I've seen a lot about that, but I'll let Urchin answer first.
Based on what I've seen, first of all, there's some people that type as INFP when they're not INFP, so that can cause some problems. Secondly, I think if there was a lot of hate, it comes from people wanting to come at a problem with their personal feelings when nobody asked, and that can cause issues.
Yes, I think a lot of I've seen a couple of ISFPs type as INFPs, which could also be a little bit, you know.
I'm not wearing pants in the street.
Please don't stand up. Which could also be a little more for the MBTI community to be more, confused on that, because when you're, like Urchin says, they come from a place of introverted feeling, which means, they're giving you an opinion and you might not necessarily want to hear that opinion. So that's not something, like, for example, if you're going through something that someone says, well, you shouldn't have done that because they feel that way, you're going to be thinking like, well, what does that have to do with you? Like, who asked you in the first place? So that's why, FI DOMs can come up a little bit as people don't understand where they're coming from. And they always try to do it in a place of, a good place, but it can be misconstrued or just annoys other people. But they typically, it's from a good place. They always want to help. They want to make people happy as well. So there you go. Okay, guys, we're in the last 17 minutes of the stream. What questions do you guys have?
Ambient disguise. What is your type?
He's just like you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're twins.
Although he's a male, though, so not necessarily twins, but yes.
Are male INFPs rare?
There's less than the females, I believe. That would make more sense.
Hmm.
But according to the MBTI thing, yes, they're on the rare side because they're an intuitive. Except the ENFPs, apparently, were just common hoes. Oh, I don't know if I can use that word. Whoops, my bad. My bad, guys. I didn't mean to offend anybody. But just so INFPs are not rare, like super rare, like an NI, but definitely on the rare side. So
That was good.
my bad. What are the common misconceptions between intuitives, and I mean NE and NI? Because a lot of people are like, well, he must be an I because he's a daydreamer, or like, or NIs are also intuitives in the daydreaming way, and it's like, no, I don't think they really are.
When they're
So
really
what
not.
differences do you see? Yeah, that people confuse that just because NI is an intuitive, that means that they're creative.
So the idea is, and I was explaining this to Bob last night. Extroverted intuition, possibilities of everything around me. Let's say that might be a basic way to look at it. Introverted intuition, ideas about me. And so when you lead your life wondering about ideas for you, where are you going? What's your future going to look like? How are you going to get these things? When you focus hard on that, you aim for success in getting those things that you want. And so very busy people, they're making sure they're getting the good grades. They're making sure that they're going to the right colleges, that they're getting the right kind of job for the specific kinds of experience so they could advance into whatever career they wanted to get into. And so they can daydream. It's absolutely possible, especially if they're bored or they're having to listen to something and they're just essentially wasting their time just being there wherever they're at. Like, let's say they're 15 years old and they've already covered what's being covered in the class, so they have other things they could be doing. They may decide to daydream a little bit about their future, maybe. Or, and what's more likely the case, they'll try to figure out what other work they can be doing while the teacher's prattling on about something they already had covered and they already did the work for.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering my question. Amazing urchin. So, disabled or bed, could ISFPs be willing to act on violence similar to ESTPs, ISTPs, and ESFPs? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
They sure can.
Actually, I've had a ISFP who's always angry, and I mean, like, he's not always angry, but if somebody said something, like, his immediate reaction was anger and to like yell or cuss and try to get very, it's just almost angry, kind of violent, because you're stepping on their values. And the difference between an ISFP and an INFP is going to be more considerate, I would say, because they can see other perspectives. An ISFP is just, I see my perspective and I think it's wrong, and it doesn't matter what you try to tell them, it's wrong. Like, there's no reasoning with it. So it can be a little harder to handle. So they're gonna get a little more violent from what I've seen. Now I don't know if that's experience with everybody, but that's what I've seen.
There you go.
Turbulent versus assertive type, says CL.
I don't buy into assertive, turbulent.
sliders and scales. So I think there are moments in our life where we can be more assertive versus turbulence, and vice versa. So I think that's contextual based on your current life experience.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I think assertive and turbulent was added into the 16 personalities website so that people could further justify them mistyping themselves. And they say, oh, well, yeah, I typed as an INFJ, but see, I'm more of this type of INFJ. And that's why I don't behave like all the other INFJs. It's an excuse to claim to be a type that you're not. So I don't buy into it.
Makes sense. Now, what should I eat for today?
And I guess that's all the time we've got for today on the
Strawberries.
stream. No, we are.
Just kidding. I'm just
Talking
kidding. We
about
still have
food.
10 minutes, guys.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay, so Pencap says that he can confirm what I said looking back. Okay, good, because that's what I've noticed on both of the ISFP males that I've met. So, and female. So it's more of a, a little more closed-minded when it comes to when you step on their values. But it's all good. Urchin. Does anybody else have questions for Urchins? We have 11 minutes. Rapid fire rounds. Just throw anything you have at him. It doesn't matter what question it is. Just put it on the chat, and we're gonna force him to answer it. So it's a little more torturing of Urchin today before the stream ends.
I'm sure that'll be
Well,
fun.
whoa, I cannot talk. Let's talk about your feelings, Urchin, to torture you.
I don't have any, so.
That's
The end of the conversation.
as he does.
You know what I like? Strawberries with white chocolate.
Oh, that is good, Cookie Dough. Bob says, okay, first pen cap. I heard turbulent and assertive only exist because the tests that use those are based on the big five.
That's also
Bob
what I
says,
heard.
yes. I think that SE is in ISFPs also causes them to want to take action and deal with their issues right now, and that could maybe cause to act more on their emotions than ponder about them like any types do. That is correct, Bob. Yes, I agree with that. Which is most likely to be diagnosed with borderline personality?
ISFPs.
Disorder. ISFPs? Okay, that makes sense because my mom, I'm pretty sure, has borderline disorder and she's an ISFP.
I know
Yeah.
an ISFP with that disorder too.
Yeah, I think it's an excuse to behave a certain way. So,
Yeah, she refuses to go to the doctor, but at this point, I'm like, there must be something wrong up there. So I gave her
there
personality
must
disorder
be something wrong.
Look, every single time they go a little bit crazy, I'm like, what is wrong here? Like, why are you acting like this? So I'm assuming that ISFP makes sense. I'm gonna go with that. Destabilized Orbit says INTPs and ISTPs both have FI on their 8th function. In an ISTP's case, although they ignore their feelings, they do end up exploding in tense situations. How do INTPs handle their FI? Well, ISTPs is not in tense situations. I think your feeling our guys are always up there, by the way. But anyway, Urchin, go ahead.
I would say that INTPs don't do it very well. They really have issues expressing their anger, let's say. Like in the case of my friend Michael, I've seen him explode in frustration. He tries his best to keep it under control and tries to stay logical, but it almost sounds like a little kid throwing a tantrum, kind of.
So, like an ISTP sounds like an ESFP when they're, in their feelings all the time, or an ISFP. What type would you say an INTP looks like? An ESFP as well, or ISFP?
No, I wouldn't say an ISFP. Maybe more like an INFP.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, because out of all of the TI users, right, I've realized that ISTPs are definitely on the feeler side than
Only if they're not doing well in life. Like if things are just going to hell for them, then yeah, they can have moments.
But when you're a teenager, what's wrong with in life? And they're still like that.
Isn't
though.
like everything wrong in life when you're a teenager? Like,
No, my life was amazing when I was a teenager. I don't know about you guys.
so for the young man, they're trying to get to know girls. They're trying to be charismatic. They're trying to figure them out. Their hormones are going wild. They have bursts of aggressiveness that might be uncalled for. They're dealing with other puberty-related issues. They got hair growing in funny places. They got to start buying deodorant. There's all kinds of things going wrong for a teenage male.
Okay, well, as a female, I didn't have those issues, so sucks for you guys, I guess. What about you, Cookie Dough? I heard you laugh.
Oh, and what?
What about you?
School? I thought of school as a teenager, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not like school.
Why not?
I'm
How was school?
happy. It was torture.
Okay. Why was it actually tortured by school? Tell us.
Why school was torture?
Yes.
I did not like anything, honestly. It was not nice, and I was zoned out the whole time. Usually I wouldn't even know which class I was in. It was horrible. I'm happier now compared to when I was a teenager. So,
Destabilize orbit. Ven loves ESTJs and ISTPs from what I've seen. So here's the thing. ISTPs that are not, like Urchin likes to say, most ISTPs online are probably not doing well in life. Now, I do really like ISTPs. I've had 2 boyfriends that were ISTPs, and I enjoy them because they're very logical. They get things done, and I'm used to them. Now, the problem is I'm not used to seeing an ISTP how I had never seen an ISTP in real life how I see it in the Discord. Now, it's completely different. It's almost like if they were a completely different species. Like, I see them as ESFPs or ISFPs more than I could ever see them as an ISTP. Now, we have ISTPs in our Discord, like Seagull. That man is amazing. What's the other one? Hemi? What's his name? I always forget. Himai. Also, like, such a mature, like, an ISTP that I'm used to, right? They have their stuff together. So it's not that I don't like the ISTPs. It's just those particular ISTPs on, sometimes in the Discord are a little aggressive. They cause us a little too much problem with the other members. And, they tend to kind of insult everybody. So we kind of have to deal with it more. So they give me more work, and I don't like to work. I am a lazy person. Yes, Bob. Hema. Thank you. Navar Valor says, any doms love exploring new things all the time, but I notice they also can tend to keep a lot of old habits for a long time. Do you think this is because they're inferior SI programming growing up?
It depends on the habit. Realistically, depends on the habit. So, for example, I have the same car that I bought 13 years ago. That is my mode of transportation. Is the same car I've had for 13 years. I don't see a reason to replace it, and it just gets me from point A to point B. So I'm not particularly interested in the quality of my ride, so long as it gets me to where I'm going. Same goes with keeping my room a sty most days. It's just something that doesn't really bother me, therefore I don't see a need to change it.
But obviously, certain things like playing a video game, you'll want to enjoy exploring all the aspects in a new video game. But as soon as it starts getting boring, you turn it off, you load up a completely different game. So it just depends on what it's related to in terms of keeping things around. Or people around in some cases.
Yeah, well, guys, the stream is almost done. We want to thank everybody for staying here. This is like one of the biggest crowds we had today, so thank you so much. Make sure to like, subscribe, join the Discord to be typed by Urchin. We're looking for people of different types to do the Type Talks interview. Right now, we currently had the ENTP. We already have the person for the INFP. We already also have the INTP video. So if you guys like to join to see, if you can possibly be in one of the Type Talks video, make sure you subscribe because we will need to type you before you join one of the videos. And it would be amazing to have you guys in the Discord and asking a bunch of questions. We love questions.
Always love questions. Make sure to @ me in the Discord, otherwise I don't see the questions. You gotta @ me. And as Ben said, thank you all for joining. Make sure to join that Discord, do all the fun things. And I would like to thank my special guests, Lady V and Cookie Dough, the sweetest women I know in my life. Thank you, girls, for being here. Especially you, Ben. So sweet, so brave.
My God. I'm done with you today.
And that's all the time we've got for today. Bye, everybody. Bye.